Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
It's the morning drive. UK property back on the radar for GCC investors. Interest has risen by 16%. Westminster in London remains one of the most searched locations. More buyers are looking to diversify with stable income generating assets. Select Property has also launched Vita Living Circle Square, which is a completed residential development in the north of the country. It's in Manchester, and it's designed for investors seeking immediate rental returns. It says here, Hamish McAllister, Senior UK Property Consultant for the Middle East at Select Property, joins me in the studio. So let's talk about what's driving demand and where investors are putting their money. But first of all, welcome. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you as well. Real pleasure to be here.
It was good to have you here. I mean, in terms of the macro picture, we are seeing, I think, a significant shift in sentiment. Reports show interest in UK property among investors here in the GCC, up 16%, as I said. In your view, Hamish, what's the primary driver? Is this a sudden resurgence in appetite, as it seems to be? Is it a renewed interest in UK property, do you think, from this part of the world?
Yeah, great question. So there's always been a demand and drive there. We've been in business over 20 years, and we've been, incredibly busy, done very well over that time frame. But given, of course, regional conflict, hostilities, it's definitely become, I guess, been brought to the front of people's minds.
Right.
People are looking for a safer asset-backed investment. You look at the UK real estate market, it's one of the oldest, safest in the world. So I think really, yes, I'm not surprised it's risen by 16%, renewed interest completely. People just want to mitigate that risk. Don't get me wrong, the GCC is a fantastic investment, but I do think people now just need a bit of security, because sometimes I speak to a lot of investors and they can be quite, let's say, UAE heavy within their portfolio. I think it's just good now to just take some of the liquidity that they might have and just put it into the UK. So I think there's really been a renewed interest from that point of view.
So they're looking for a stable and income generating asset. Is it a move? Is it more about capital preservation, or is it a shift in how investors see the balance between risk and yield?
I think it's a bit of both. I really very much at the angle at the moment, we are trying to do this really for wealth preservation at the end of the day. A lot of investors that we speak to on a daily basis are really looking to do this for their kids, grandkids, et cetera, and further down the line. Okay. So this is really seen more as a wealth preservation right at the moment, but very good to have that diversification within the portfolio.
I mean, Westminster consistently ranks as one of the most searched locations. What does that tell us about the investor profile at the moment? Are they prioritizing kind of the iconic Westminster? That generates a few images in your head. Is it prime central stability, or is it where kind of professional rental demand is?
Kind of really all three of those things, but I think, to go through them separately. So I think a lot of people, when they look at the UK market, particularly from the outside, international investors, they only think of London. So that's primarily where they will start looking into. It's the first port of call for any investor looking into the UK market, because they might not have been there before. They might not have been to regional cities like Birmingham and Manchester, so they might not have the knowledge about it. Yeah. So generally seen as that is probably the first port of call into the UK market through Westminster. Of course, yes, having a trophy asset in the city is, of course, one of those things that people love to have. We look at recently, it's been one of the biggest transactions in UK property. From, I think it was the owner of Damac, who's bought a house just off Regent's Park. So again, showing the huge demand there from international investors, the confidence that they have. And again, of course, yes, you look at it from perspective of the demand for global conglomerate banks, companies who are based within the city. So there's always going to be a rental market within London. Yeah,
for sure. There was a story recently about, I think, a member of the royal family, I think it was Dubai royal family, buying a place in Belgravia, I think, as well.
I think you're right, yeah.
There's something like that, yeah. Maybe we're not supposed to talk about it.
I don't think maybe we're not supposed to know about it, but that's definitely happened, yeah.
There was a report, at least. So is there, what's driving this shift to income-backed real estate, do you think? Is it true to say that there is a shift?
I think so, yes. I think primarily in the past, people like to buy off plan, of course, in the UK to capitalize on the growth potential over the build period. But now people are lacking a bit of confidence. They don't want the void periods. I think there's also a sentiment to more borrowing now as well. So people don't want void periods within an investment that they've made particularly.
Okay.
You know, when you've borrowed a lot of money and you're inputting it into something that is completing, it might not have a tenant for 2 to 3 months due to whatever setbacks there may be. Yeah. So we've seen a huge demand and shift towards income generating assets, particularly in areas like Manchester and Birmingham, where the yields are much, much higher, down to very much a shift of the young populations that are based in these cities. You know, you look at Manchester, over 120,000 students who are based there, and the rental demand is huge from these students. So that's why I would say probably there's a huge shift towards that. People want the confidence knowing that though you're buying an asset that straight away it's turnkey, that it's going to be taken care of, they're going to get an instant rental income from.
Okay, well, let's talk about Manchester, because there is a real focus on the likes of Manchester. What is it about the current rental market there that's capturing the attention maybe of the Gulf investor? And I'm thinking Etihad as part of that, I suppose, and Manchester City, obviously. But compared to 5 years ago, a different story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really exciting what's happening in Manchester. There's a huge demand for it at the moment. I mean, it's down to really kind of a few key reasons. You know, the universities there are incredible. The schooling is amazing. We've got one of, Manchester University is a Russell Group university, so there's a huge demand for investors sending their children there. Over 120,000 students within the city centre as well. This younger population are really driving very strong amenity-rich accommodation within the city centre. We've also seen regeneration into the city as well, such as the Sister redevelopment that is happening next to one of our developments. It's driving huge demand for that as well. We're also seeing that because of this, apartments are renting out very, very quickly. Apartments are selling very quickly. So for investors who are, let's say, investing for the first time, it's a great thing to be a part of as the city grows.
Okay. Let's talk about let's talk about the development I mentioned at the start, actually. Vita Living Circle Square. Tell me about that.
It's probably one of the most exciting developments that we've actually done, and I'll explain why. So Vita Living Circle Square is probably one of the best located developments that we've ever had, located on the Oxford Road in the city centre of Manchester. So what we've done is we've actually built a master plan development, and it's mixed use. So what we've implemented is offices, student apartments, residential. We've done retail, we've done hospitality, and also green spaces as well. Okay. Now, the reason why we've done these things and implemented all of this into a development is because it drives footfall to the building, which in turn rents out apartments quicker, higher occupancy rates, higher retention rates. So the development itself is a fully ready, fully furnished development that investors can buy straight into and get an instant rental return. Okay. The development we completed 5 years ago and have subsequently has been rented out for that entire time through ourselves. So we are now running at a 98.5% occupancy rate, which is one of the highest occupancy rates in the city.
How did you get that?
I think due to the key reasons being, of course, what we've implemented
all the
points I've made, the office spaces. We have people like Puma who are now moved their European headquarters to our office space there. We've got Octopus Energy. Again, that's driving people to be, wanting to walk 2 minutes across to work. Retention rates as well are extremely high. Generally, we're seeing that tenants, residents are wanting to do longer term tenancies because the cost of moving is too much. So we're seeing 3 to 5 year tenancies, typically with renewals happening. Also to do with the branding as well. Vita Living, the Vita brand is one of the most sort of famous and well-known brands within the UK. And it's our company, and we have over 40 developments across the UK and Europe. So when it comes to, let's say, student living, it's really at the foremost in front of everyone's mind when they think about renting in the city centre, such as Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham. So again, that is driving huge amounts on high occupancy rates. But for investors, it's a really fantastic opportunity because you can invest in something that you know straight away you're going to have a rental return between 7 and 8%. Okay. And you pair that with as well Manchester's growth rate at the moment. We're going to see 30% capital growth over the next 5 years. So again, it's giving real, I guess, security. 30%, yeah, which is amazing. It's outperforming the rest of the UK, which is really quite incredible. So for investors, it really gives them that confidence to invest in something that you know is going to have a great return, but also really good growth as well.
How student living has changed.
Incredible.
Yeah, okay. because it was always the case in my day when nobody wanted students in their apartment or in their house, sharing and doing whatever students do,
Yeah.
but it has changed. I guess in a place like Manchester, it's an aviation hub for Etihad in lots of ways. Lots and lots of international students coming in, looking for central accommodation. That's part of the story.
It really is, yeah. I mean, to say as well, the building that we have here with two parts of two residences that we have, I'd say only 40% actually make up of students within the buildings. Generally seem to be residents from within the city centre who are working in offices nearby. I mean, to give you an idea, there's over 86,000 employees in this little area that we've developed in off the Oxford Road. It's a 10-minute walk to Manchester Piccadilly. Again, for GCC investors, very easy because you fly into Manchester, you jump on a train, in 20 minutes, you're literally at the building. So it's a really central hub, but the student market has changed massively and dramatically and is a real, I think, real asset for investors to have.
So it's fully completed, so that gets rid of a pain point for lots of people, that waiting for construction thing, obviously. How does the ready-to-go, now is the right time model change the conversation that you have with investors when you talk to people as an offering? How does that?
Yeah, it's a really good one. Generally, people are...
Compared to off-plan.
Yeah, compared to off-plan. I think it takes away some of the fear factor and the pain points of, again, a building might not complete on time, we might get void periods, there might be snagging issues, and it takes away that pain point that a lot of investors generally have when buying off-plan property. It's a really great one to dip your toe in the water. You're going to have a really great taste for UK real estate investment. And once you have something that's income generating, whether that might be used for paying off a mortgage or just purely having capital put back into the bank account, it will then give you that confidence to then, I guess, one or two or three more.
Okay, so what's the ideal investor profile? Are these people looking for kind of hands-off management? Are they more concerned with specific kind of demographics of tenants moving in?
Great question. So the demographic generally for UK real estate investment has always been a typical demographic where the age, I guess, would be from 40 years old upwards, buying for their kids, grandkids, etc. But it's actually really shifting. We have people like the financial wingman who are, banging the drum for UK real estate investment to a much younger audience. We're seeing a lot of, I guess, crypto investors who are of a much younger age, 16, 17-year-olds who've done very, very well, but are now looking to, I guess, secure their finances. So the demographic is really shifting and changing. And people want, I guess, what we provide, which is a completely hands-off and hassle-free investment process.
So the crypto guys are buying one of the oldest assets. It's remarkable irony, I guess.
It really is, yes.
Maybe it's just a very sensible financial head that I never got. You talk to investors all the time. I suppose it's the main part of your day, talking to people. What are buyers from the GCC, not necessarily GCC buyers, but people from this region, prioritizing when they talk to you about UK property?
I think the main thing is understanding where the demand is. Looking at regional cities like Manchester and Birmingham and having that advice to look at these places, I think is really key. Understanding, I guess, as well, is you're dealing with a credible developer at the end of the day. You're dealing with someone credible who knows what they're doing. We have a very proven and strong track record. So we've had over the last 20 years, we've been in Dubai, we've been in operations, we've been operating, we've sold over £3 billion worth of property. We've returned over £300 million in rental revenue to our investors. We have over 10,000 investors worldwide, and we are probably, I'd say 80% of them are based within the GCC. So having them dealing with us, we've got a proven strong track record. We do things completely hands-off and hassle-free for them as well. So would be the best advice that they can do. But primarily is coming to talk to us and understanding how the UK property market works and know that it's not just always focused around London. There's better investment in regional cities like Manchester.
So it's local knowledge and regional knowledge.
Exactly that. Yeah. Okay. Which is key.
GCC investors, how are they with environmental and social and governance, ESG criteria? How do these new residential developments measure up in terms of sustainability? And is that an important factor? Is it a deciding factor?
Really great question. It's never really been something that comes up a lot with us. Of course, people want a good ECG rating. I do have the odd investor who wants to know more about this, but generally when investing in the UK, it's not really much of a priority. Of course, when we are building developments in city centres, of course, let's say for an economical standpoint, we're not implementing car parks because the city centres are changing within the UK, becoming less pedestrianised, more pedestrianised and less cars within the city. But generally, when investors are talking this, it's not really a sort of a key focus.
I mean, codes and standards are relatively high anyway. So is it because that's a given?
It's really very much a given. And given our stance as a tier one developer within the UK, we have to be, at the top. We are such a big name within the industry. So with us, it really is very much a given.
And 80% is here. You're
really heavy. Yeah,
I didn't realise that.
We've done very, very well within the GCC. Our Dubai office has been open since 2004. We've been here. We've been in the same location in Dubai Marina, and it's been done extremely well. And as I'm sure from being here, you're very well aware that the way GCC investors work, especially in the UAE, is very much down to referrals. I've invested here. I'm going to bring my friends. I'm going to bring my family, and that's what I really think I judge our success on. I'd say 50% of our business is actually from referrals, friends, colleagues, because we treat people so well. We are the full turnkey, I guess, investment process into the UK. You have myself looking after you, have our investor services team, we have our Select Residential, who are our full property management company as well. And that in turn means that we are getting the incredible retention rates, occupancy rates, etc.
Are you seeing more first-time international investors of late recently?
We are, yes. And
Really?
Again, I think that's driven by this younger demographic who are wanting that.
These young crypto guys.
These young crypto guys. But I think
the 16-year-olds where you see.
Yeah. So, I take my hat off to them. But no, there's generally a younger demographic of first-time buyers investing into the UK now.
Right.
Just looking, I think, to start. I was recently in Bahrain with a client who, again, is fresh out of university in Manchester. They went to school there. They know it. So their first port of call is, I know what the market's like there. We're going to invest into it. So we're seeing a huge amount of university students fresh out, might have some money, bank of mum and dad helping them. And then getting into the UK property market.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what about interest rates then? If we've got the crypto guys going on, they're cash purchases, I suppose, but do interest rates, and I suppose the wider sort of economic outlook, how much does that influence investor confidence?
Great question. So absolutely it does. I mean, the Bank of England's held strong. So they've held at 3.75% in terms of interest rates. We're hoping the second half of this year, interest rates to go down. Of course, it's going to increase investor confidence into the market, buying capability. But property really is seen as a really great hedge, against inflation. And generally, people are looking very strongly at the currency markets as well. Whether the pound sterling gets stronger or weaker, that generally is quite a big reason why investors will put money into the UK.
What advice do you give GCC investors, people from here, from wherever they might be from, if they come to you and say, right, Hamish, UK could be my thing, tell me why it's good. What advice do you give them?
Absolutely. So the first bit of advice.
Absolutely is the advice.
Absolutely is. Yes, get in there.
Okay.
Invest straight away.
That's easy.
No. So the advice I would give is, why are they looking to do this? What are their goals they're looking to achieve? And those are the first things that we need to establish. A lot of this is really, most investors are putting this away for their children, or the idea that their kids might go to school in the UK in the future.
Right.
So it's really understanding what they're looking to do, why they're looking to do it, and then really from there advising them what assets to put their money into. And again, we always come back to one of the best assets, which is putting it into something like Vita Living Circle Square. They're going to get that instant rental return straight away. Whether they're leveraging a mortgage, at least the mortgage is going to be well paid with money to spare afterwards. And making sure it works for them as well into their portfolio. So speaking with myself, one of our team, is probably the first step in doing so, and getting a real understanding for why the UK is such a great investment at the moment and a really good diversification tool.
Why is the UK such a great investment destination at the moment?
It's a great question. I think it's down to the fact that
you're very bullish.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you have to be, and I get that.
You have to be.
But,
so it comes down to one key thing: supply and demand. The UK housing market cannot meet the demand. The supply, we look at the Labour government have pledged over 1.5 million homes to be built, and they've only, I think, made over the last 2 years only 300,000. And that's the same in key city centre locations as well. The rental market just can't keep up. You look as well at, I guess, the talent pool is shifting up north to Birmingham, Manchester. We have some amazing universities, but big conglomerate banks and companies like PwC, KPMG, Deutsche Bank are moving their headquarters to these city centres. So that is really why. But it boils down to one key simple thing, is supply and demand, and the UK just cannot meet the demand.
Okay. We talked about that 16% figure, that growth in interest. Do you expect that to accelerate as we look towards the end of the year?
Yeah, I believe it will.
Yeah.
I really believe it will. We're only getting busier. And a few sort of key things that I would take from why they're going to do this is because people are looking for good, safe asset-backed investments. Regional cities will, of course, I believe, outweigh the demand compared to London. They'll outperform as well. Of course, currency will be a big factor as well. But I really do believe if interest rates keep coming down, we're going to be in for a very sort of, I think, strong second half of this year and going forward as well.
Yeah,
over the next 5 years.
And as we see the bounce back here in the UAE, hopefully as well, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's really key, is investors who are looking to, I guess, widen their portfolios. It's key to have something here as well, because Dubai, Abu Dhabi is a fantastic market to invest into. I think it's good to be diverse and be mindful to mitigate those risks.
Sensible financial advice, no doubt about that. Final question for you. What is the one thing investors should be watching over the next, I was going to say 6, it's more like 4.5 months now almost, that might impact a strategy, an investment strategy, if they're looking at property strategy, if they're looking at the UK?
I think interest rates. I think that's the most important thing. We are seeing more and more investors now looking to, I guess, finance their purchases, keep some liquidity, and I think that's a real key factor, is making sure that interest rates are low and borrowing costs are low.
It's been good to talk to you. Hamish McAllister is Senior UK Property Consultant for the Middle East at Select Property. Appreciate you coming in.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been good to have you here. This full interview will be on our Mira Business FM YouTube page after the show.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
It's the morning drive. Higher education becoming more expensive, but there is one university in Dubai trying to ease the pressure. De Montfort University, Dubai, has unveiled new financial support for what it calls its International Year Zero program, and it's expanding scholarship opportunities. That includes a new initiative for GCC students whose education has been disrupted by the regional conflict that we've seen. So we'll look at what this means for families, weighing up the cost of a British degree, with Simon Bradbury, who is the Provost and the Pro-Vice Chancellor International at De Montfort University here in Dubai. Good to have you in the studio.
Good to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You're very welcome. It's good to meet you. I'd like to, if we can, kind of balance the realities, the financial realities of education. It's a daunting thing, of course, with the initiatives that you have going on at the university, you're currently undertaking. We're hearing more and more from families about the mounting pressures of international education costs. It's standard, isn't it? As a leader in this space, how do you view the current mood amongst parents and students in the region? And is the proposition of a degree shifting at all?
So I think, firstly, it's been a challenging period for families and their students.
Yeah.
Obviously there was an impact on their learning, but obviously for some families there was also an impact on family income. Parents may have lost their jobs.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing at the moment is the demand is still there. The value of a degree is still there. The intention to go to university is still there. But there are some barriers to kind of coming to university. And one of the major ones, obviously, is financial.
Education costs are a major concern for families. I've still got one of my offspring in university, in higher education, so I feel the pain as well. So the decision to introduce this new kind of financial support, the International Year Zero program, piques my interest. What was the internal conversation at the university that led to the decision? Was it a reaction to economic inflation? Was it maybe a more deliberate move to lower the barrier to entry?
I think it's probably helpful to understand the kind of macro context around higher education at the moment. And certainly we're seeing international mobility of students wanting to go overseas to study for UK, US, Australian degrees still is very much there. It's projected to grow. But what we're seeing now is there's challenges to study in those destinations globally because of different visa changes. US, UK are good examples. So there's a desire to study locally. A, it's more affordable, and B, it's more straightforward. So what we realized quite readily is that a lot of students, maybe in the GCC, wanted to go overseas, or they wanted to potentially study locally. But actually, at the moment, that's incredibly challenging and complicated. So what we wanted to do is to put something out there that recognized the challenges that students were having, but provide a level of affordability for them to come to our university in that context and get a UK degree, whilst keeping open their opportunities actually in the future. Because if you come to De Montfort University for that foundation degree, you could still go to UK for your second or third year.
So it's all options open. I mean, we have this new phenomenon, don't we? Or relatively new phenomenon of the Dubai kids who have been here all their lives. And it would be quite natural to go to further education, higher education here, rather than, it's time to leave at 18. That's kind of a new thing.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. As you've seen Dubai mature as an education hub. It's a rising actually study destination, not only for the Dubai kids, but for people wanting to come and study in Dubai from the India regional countries as well.
Yeah.
And definitely the Dubai kid, as you sort of framed it, there is a kind of desire, I guess, potentially to go overseas, but also a recognition that they love it here.
Yeah.
And so what we can provide, and other universities provide this, is come to us for 1 year, 2 year. You can still go and do your final year in the UK. In fact, for us, you can even go and study one block or one semester overseas and come back again at our UK campus.
A little
taster, and you get the same degree. So I think there's a whole series of different opportunities, I think, for students that didn't exist maybe even 5 years ago.
Well, that's what I think. Yeah, I created a new category of university student. Unfortunately, I didn't mean to do that, but there is it's a really interesting thing demographically. I think it's an interesting thing. It's unusual to this part of the world. One of the most notable parts, I think, of your initiative is the support for students whose education has been disrupted. I referenced it at the start. Why was it important for you guys to step in with specific support for these students, and how does it fit into your kind of broader mission, if you like?
So I think De Montfort University is over 150 years old. We were a university originally, an art and design college, and we were always very local in Leicester, and we always supported students into those local industries. And in Leicester currently, we have a lot of students that are first in family to go to university, that have are working and working alongside studying. And we thought, how do we bring those values to what we're doing in Dubai? And we saw the challenges that some families were facing, and we said, actually, that's really part of our ethos, to support students potentially where they haven't done as well or they've been impacted, financially or otherwise, to get them on their journey into university and then on to employment after they graduate. And that's always been the ethos. I mean, we call ourselves the Empowering University as a strapline. We really feel that fits within that agenda.
Particularly at a time like now as well, I guess. Okay. For a parent listening who might not be familiar with the International Year Zero program, why is it increasingly a more popular route into university? And how does it actually help a student bridge the gap to a full degree academically and I suppose financially as well?
Yeah, so the International Year Zero offers a number of different pathways into our main degree program. So whether that's you want to be an architect, or you want to go into business management, or you want to go into psychology. And potentially you've been studying at high school, you haven't quite got the grades that you wanted to have got, or indeed you may have failed one or two subjects. And you need that support and pathway to get the development that you need in terms of your learning journey, because you're not quite ready, but also some of the wider academic skills. And there's many different scenarios for which your education could have been impacted at school. So what that provides is, firstly, is two things really: study skills, a range of different soft skills as well to support you in your learning, but also subject-specific pathways. So that might be, as I said, in design pathways, in engineering pathways, in business management type pathways, so that you can then progress into that main degree. And it's considerably cheaper than the main degree program, recognizing it's a bridging program.
Okay. You said study skills there and soft skills. What does it offer in terms of study skills? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I think, as you'll appreciate, there's two things I think students are very worried about when picking university. So one is potentially cost, but actually what they mean by that is value. They want to know, once they graduate, that their investment's been worth their while. They're going to get employment after they graduate. So one of the things that we do right from the get-go, including in our RYZ, is to try and embed skills around employability. And that would mean, from early on, teaching them about how to engage in things like interviews, kind of real-world scenarios in the classroom that are linked to employment projects, for example, so that they can not just learn, if you like, the subject-specific knowledge, which we know now with AI generally is quite available. It's those other skills actually that they need, and we're trying to support them very early on in that foundation. And then obviously the study skills is to learn how to study their subject academically, how to understand the breadth of their field and what they're going into.
You should do that for people like me. It would really help.
You're very welcome.
Thanks. Am I right in saying the GCC, there's a scholarship being awarded, is it today?
That's right. So we, the specific scholarship we launched, obviously we have our International Foundation RYZ program, and then we introduced this GCC Impact Scholarship. And for that, we offered up to 100% scholarship to students that could demonstrate to us that they're academically excelling, but also that they're impacted by the regional conflict that we've seen here, and they could be GCC nationals or residents. And today we're going to be awarding 5 of those scholarships to students that have done academically very well, but have been impacted in different ways. And the financial support is there actually to help them exceed. And if you go back to where I started, that's really the core of our university.
It's the ethos, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. What are the biggest misconceptions, do you think, that maybe families have about foundation programs?
I think there's often a sort of sense that, they are not worth it academically, or that somehow by taking a foundation program that it means that your student wasn't ready to enter degree
Do
directly.
you know what you want to do?
Yeah,
why
that sort of thing. You know,
yeah,
and actually
yeah.
somehow it's not a good thing. And actually the evidence is quite the opposite. You know, doing a foundation program actually often means that they do better in their degree program because they are better prepared than others that may go, you know, just make it in terms of those entry criteria. So I think it's really worth considering.
Well, I'm interested in that because how do you advise? What kind of approaches do you take when you advise people on perhaps a foundation path to follow?
Yeah, and I think this is really important. You know, as a parent and a student, you know, you'll be getting your results. IB results are out today. Lots of happy students, but there'll also be students potentially who were disappointed or didn't get what they want. And I think what we do is we get the students in and their parents at our open days, or you know, walk in, and we have a conversation about, you know, where are they on their academic journey, what are their objectives, and where are they in terms of their grades, and what can they afford. And from that, we try and build a pathway that has a journey. The IYZ is helpful because if you're not quite sure, I'm not sure if I want to do business or law, well, we have a pathway that will cover both. I know I want to do design, but I don't know if it's interior design or architecture I want to do. Well, we've got a design pathway and you can have a flavour of that subject as you're going in. So I think, you know, we advise them, we try and guide them at that point because not all students at, you know, 17 or 18 are absolutely clear on what they want to do, and that's what we're there to
people a lot
help.
older than that are absolutely clear. My well-worn mantra is I still don't really know what I want to do when I grow up. You know, to be honest, and I think, but I joke, but there's an element of that that's much more prevalent in a younger person. Of course,
That's right, and I think we also recognise careers are not a straight line.
Not anymore. It's different now,
Not anymore. I mean, I'm an architect by background. I spent 15 years in practice, and now I run a campus in Dubai. Who would have thought that would be the obvious journey for me to take?
Well,
and
the obvious question is, how did that happen? Of course.
Yes, well, practicing architecture, teaching architecture, running schools of architecture, and then running academic units. That's the route. But you know, it's not always like that. You know, for students, it's not always a straight line, and that's why I think when I talked about the soft skills, the other skills we're going to need, and I think in an age of artificial intelligence, where knowledge is accessible, it's going to be about judgment, soft skills, interpersonal interaction. Those are the sorts of things, as educators, we need to be providing students.
For sure. Tell me about the scholarship process a little bit. I'm interested in that. You're offering 5 today. GCC Impact Scholarship, is that what it's called?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
How competitive was it? And what was it? I know you can only tell me certain things, that it's obviously going to be announced later, but what was it that stood out in this year's recipients for you?
So as you'd expect, it was very competitive. We had a number of students apply. I think the first thing was they had to meet our academic entry criteria. That was a requirement, and certainly their academic capability was important, but in the context within which they're coming from. Obviously, it wasn't the be-all and end-all. And then secondly, they submitted a personal statement to set out, first of all, their ambition around their career goals, but also what had happened and what that had, you know, how the situation has impacted them or historically had been impacting them. And I think through those stories that we received, we placed heavy emphasis on that personal statement and that journey. And I think there are a couple of really powerful examples of students that are absolutely resolute and clear in their ambition and where they want to be and the impact on the world they want to have. Really was strong in that kind of narrative, and it was very evident for us, I think, looking at the scholarships, you know, where we should award them because of that. Because we want, you know, students that are committed academically, they want to succeed, will go on to do great things, and we want them to be part of our university.
And you knew that these were not AI-ed applications.
Yeah. It was very evident.
Yeah.
It was
it's very obvious when it is, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think for these sorts of things, they're such personal stories. You know, it's very evident that that's the case. And obviously, we'd spoken to the students as well to understand their journey. So yeah, we're really excited to award those this afternoon.
Okay. Scholarships are, I mean, obviously highly competitive as a process, difficult to access. For the students affected by the disruption, whatever else may have gone on internally, family-wise, whatever, how do you ensure that the process, what do you do to make sure it's efficient and it's dignified and it's reachable for people who maybe need it the most?
So what we did early on was made sure that it was well publicised. You'll see it went out in a number of media outlets in the GCC, and we were very keen so there was a visibility to it.
Yeah.
And obviously we always handle all of our applications to the university confidentially, but also when we had students coming to us, we made sure that our admissions team were clear. They said, look, actually, you're telling us that story. I think you should consider applying also for this scholarship program, so that we could sort of support them in that journey. And of course, anything we do or talk about is with the consent of the individual to get and encourage them to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So to make sure that people are aware that actually we could get this a bit cheap.
Yeah.
For a family that's maybe looking at universities maybe not for now, but looking ahead. How much of a difference can a grant or a scholarship make to the overall cost of earning a degree? And in this case, I guess a British degree.
Yeah. There's two things I think that are important to factor in as well. And I mentioned this early on. So, there is the cost of the tuition fee, but there's the other costs associated with universities if you're not living at home. So I think one of the interesting, and that's why I mentioned it first on, it can be a really smart choice to send your child to a local university in the UAE as the first step before they go overseas. And then in terms of the kind of scholarship, what I would say on that is that you'll see that there's very different headline fees across different types of universities, but scholarships can be as much as 25% of that overall fee, depending on the university, depending on the course. So I think it can make a substantial difference over the lifetime of the study. But I think we also shouldn't get affordability is key, but I think we should focus on what the outcome is, because this investment isn't just for 3 years and a degree certificate. In a sense, it's for life. And the data is very clear. Students that graduate with a degree over their lifetime significantly benchmark above students in terms of their overall lifetime earnings than students that otherwise would not have a degree. So I think it's important to bear that in mind. The price shouldn't be the only choice you're making. It'll be an important one, but I think looking at what degree you're taking, what the opportunities are from employability, and that long-term value is another important equation.
There's a great deal to consider. Beyond the tuition discounts, what kind of support, I guess kind of wraparound support, is in place for students? I mean, we know that financial pressure is just one layer of the challenge, right? How do you help students transition into a stable academic environment? How does that work?
So what we would do is you've got your course that you're on, and you'll have a program leader. So that's someone that's looking after you academically. You also have what's called a personal tutor that's there to kind of talk to you about things that are a little bit more broad, maybe than your individual subject, or it could be that as well. We have other services available. We have a in-house counsellor if you have more challenging things you want to pick up. But then on the sort of forward step, we also have career services, which start early on, engaging that. And then, of course, we mustn't forget that the university is about the overall experience. It's about meeting friends. It's about doing sports. It's about other activities in society. So I think those also exist around the kind of core academic mission, so that you get a very rounded experience and you build those friendships for life.
I guess it's very easy for parents to look at the academic side and kind of forget the adult growth side of university, the really important, the extracurricular, I suppose. Your background, you mentioned this, is in architecture and design. You've spoken, I know, about embedding sustainability into the DNA of the university. How does financial sustainability and community resilience fit into that long-term vision for your campus here in Dubai?
So we've been in Dubai for a little over 4 years now, coming up to our 5th year this September. And we're one of the fastest growing campuses, British campuses in Dubai over that period of time. So we have about 1,800 students currently studying with us, which is really exciting to see. And I think that shows that people see value in the offer that we have. But for us, we've got a relatively new building, only 18 months old in Internet City, and we've really seen that transform our student experience. I think Dubai as a study destination is a really exciting place in terms of the long-term, both sustainability and resilience. You will have seen 30% year-on-year growth in terms of students choosing to study here. I think, despite the context, that will continue to be the case because of the series of initiatives that have been put in place by the likes of the KHDA around student experience. We're seeing lots of things coming in September. And I think we've really got the kind of government support around that. And that alongside our positioning, in Internet City, we're next to a number of kind of global employers, which we have links with, really will build on our kind of value proposition going forward.
For families who are perhaps struggling now, feeling the pinch financially, what's your message? If somebody's worrying about the cost of their child's further education, the cost of the degree, what should their first step be when they engage with you as a university, or just engage with a university?
I think there's two things. So obviously, when you come to university, do ask them about the scholarships. They will exist. There'll be different options depending on what your son or your daughter has achieved at school, potentially in terms of academic scholarships. There may be others that are available, sports or otherwise. So be direct and ask about them. But I think also ask about ongoing support for your student, because things might be fine now, but 2 years down the line, you don't know what might happen. And actually, universities will have different ways and means of supporting students as they progress through their studies, hardship or other things. We certainly get cases that are very unfortunate with students during their journey. So actually, it's not just about the immediate situation and the kind of mapping out of that, but actually, what would you do if something went wrong in the second or the third year of the study? How would the university support you? I think is important to understand those mechanisms there, which you hope you may never use. And then I think finally, ask the university about what are the opportunities on graduation. Where are students getting employed? What kind of careers are they having? And universities will be able to answer those questions, and that will make you think, okay, that's the trajectory, that's the opportunity. Is that investment worth the money at this point in time?
Okay. Finally, do you feel as though you're maybe blazing something of a trail here? I mean, do you expect, because there will be a reaction to what you're doing, of course there will, do you expect financial support and maybe alternative pathways to become a bigger part of higher education here in the Emirates?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're already seeing, globally, students moving in different ways, in terms of going to different study destinations. They're choosing different routes through university. They're doing their, their foundation and then picking a pathway after that. I think, we're introducing a particular scheme now that I think is reflecting what we think is an underlying trend. So rather than setting the trend, I think we'll probably be building on a trend that we'll see going forward. And I think support and collaboration for students and allowing them and providing them access to education, is core to our mission, and I'm sure many other education institutions. So I'm sure we'll see that direction of travel in the future as well.
Let's hope so. Good on you for the 5 recipients today. Some smiling faces, no doubt, a little bit later on. Simon Bradbury is the Provost and Pro-Vice-Chancellor International at De Montfort University here in Dubai. I appreciate your time this morning.
Delighted to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more interviews like this from Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the Morning Drive. We're going to talk marketing and branding now. In a crowded market, a great product is no longer enough. Branding has become one of the most competitive advantages for startups, in particular, looking to win customers, to win investors, I guess. So on today's Scale or Fail, we're joined by the founder of Saltborn Creative to unpack why brand identity matters more than ever. And we'll also hear her story, which is a story of reinvention, I understand, after an aviation career that was disrupted, and how that setback led to building a successful creative business here in the UAE. That's really where we're going to start. Vika Rieva is the founder, and she's with me. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Tim.
Good to have you here. So let's start with it's quite a big question, actually. Why has branding become such a critical investment? And I don't mean necessarily financial investment, but why is it so important for startups at the moment?
I think because the market is so saturated at the moment, and it's becoming more and more saturated with more products coming in and services.
Hard to stand out.
Hard to stand out, yeah. So you have to be creative how to put your message across, right?
Okay.
And it's no more about the product that you're doing. It's more about if you're not marketing yourself as a commodity, but more of a brand and something that people want to identify with. That is a valuable thing to think about. And in terms of visuals, it's more than that. So we are thinking about positioning, how to position your brand if you are not, again, selling commodities, but more connecting with your people. And the positioning and the how you market your brand and all of that comes into play. Did I answer that correctly?
You did. I mean, I ask you that on purpose because I'm trying to get a handle, really for me, rather than anything else, on how marketing and branding works. It's interesting because it's almost like an impact statement immediately to understand where you're coming from. I mean, as you say, this is a marketplace that is, it's noisy, and it's noisier than ever, right? So having a great product, assuming you're selling a commodity, that's the bare minimum. That's where you start. That's not even anywhere near mission critical. So I'm interested in the secret. What's the differentiator that turns a startup potentially into a leader in their category?
All right, that's
the secret sauce. Do you know what I mean? Is it a mentality difference? What is it?
Yeah, I think because again, it's really difficult to invent something that is not already on the market. So what can differentiate you is how you do things differently and how you connect with people and how you put your message across to reach them, right? So, and especially when it comes to visuals, we are highly visual beings, so we process a lot of visual information. So getting that across in a split second is very important because we are just flooded with all of the information that coming in from everywhere. So connecting the dots and explaining, kind of putting that message across in very efficient and fast way is very important. So it's not more about the product that you're doing, but how you make people feel when they see and when they interact with your products and services, right?
You see, this is why I struggle with marketing and branding, because I'm not a marketing guy, a branding guy in any way, but I can understand. It's so difficult to get right, but what you're describing is a process where you have to make it as easy as possible. But that's the difficulty, isn't it? That's the conundrum, kind of the puzzle, because it's really difficult to keep things simple so that we can connect those dots. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I think a lot of people overcomplicate it. As long as you have, a system behind whatever you're creating is your product, then you have to have, if you have supporting visuals, you have supporting positioning, marketing to put this product out there and to reach people. Then it's just, everything comes into play. It's like a puzzle pieces. Yeah. But overcomplicating visuals, it doesn't serve anybody because it takes longer for people to understand what it is, right? To identify and understand if it's for me, even if I want to, to have this product in my life, or even if I want to pay attention to it, because we are all fighting, the brands are really fighting for attention at the moment a lot.
We're bombarded, aren't we, by all kinds of media and information and brands, etc. The essence of what you do is you help businesses, I guess, define their identity. Is that right? Is that
That's correct,
really?
yes.
Okay. So what's the what's the biggest branding mistake that founders make when they're starting out? Because founders have to be marketing and sales and accounting and promotion and the whole bit.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel
It's
for them
huge.
sometimes,
I know.
because you have to take care of everything.
Yeah.
I think overcomplicating, again, a visual part is one of the most important. And also putting too much of maybe personal attachments to how the branding is going to be. Like not thinking in terms of your customer audience, how they are going to identify with the brand. I think that's kind of, I see that a lot, especially in the newer businesses, like smaller businesses who are just entering the market.
This is my vision and this is what it needs to be. And
But it's not necessarily probably will resonate with your people, right? So you have to understand how to put that. And attaching your personal feelings to this is not always paying off. So that is...
Yeah, okay. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, so if you think strategically, it's more important, even if you're starting out, I think it's more important to focus on positioning and messaging, what you're putting out there, what your the core of your brand is, what you stand for, what are your values, and if your values are going to resonate with your people as well. Because nowadays we see such discerning clienteles, discerning customers that are looking for brands that also reflect their own values, right? So nailing all of this foundation down is way more important than, establishing that visual system, let's say, right? And especially if you're just starting, getting basic logo is more than enough. I strongly believe that, because over the time, if you're growing, you understand your brand better, you understand your people better, and it becomes more natural for you to kind of like connect with them and connect all of this foundation to hire someone, a designer who can, translate it in a really meaningful visuals that can really translate your authenticity of your brand to your customers. Yeah.
So you have to let things develop.
Yeah,
really.
In a way, yes.
Yeah,
Unless you have, of course, quite a big of an investment, and you can hire, a team of, let's say, strategizing team who can create everything for you, and you will be just, kind of like that spark that holds everything together.
Well, assuming you can get that spark, because it would be difficult to find a team who can tune into, your vision and your approach and your, everything that you want your business to be. I mean, that's going to take time.
Yeah, I think usually it happens with the multiple entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, when they build already one business and then they want to build another one, and they kind of have a ground idea what they want to do, and they probably have connections, someone to help them with bringing that vision to life. Let's say packaging is very important as well to stand out. So all of these elements kind of like play into role in a way, right? So it depends on the capital at the end of the day. But I think I mostly work with small businesses, so that's why I explain in a way why they get things wrong. And maybe I think like the really, really, really one thing, if I choose one thing that is done wrong, is that they don't understand their customers. And
really?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. You're thinking from your perspective.
Correct, yes.
Because it's important to you, obviously. Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. I kind of figure that startups often look at, I suppose, fitting their products to a market rather than focusing on the identity of their brand. It seems to be right, well, I'm going to put it here rather than saying this is what we are. Does that happen, do you think?
Yes.
Because that seems to me to be, it's natural to do that. Obviously it is, because you want to sell stuff or whatever it is. But that seems to be like the wrong way around in a way.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, I know why that happens, because it's higher risk if you want to, to project your identity, like this is the brand. If you want to sell, versus if you just want to sell the product and make money. So it depends on the objective, I guess. But I think people more leaning towards just selling a product rather than building a brand, because it's more also time consuming. It essentially at the beginning, it probably also requires a bit more investment. But over the time, you're building your reputation, you're building your presence, and people are naturally, recognizing you everywhere. So your customer acquisition cost is lower, essentially, over the time, but it takes a bit longer time.
Okay. So in the context of, let's take the UAE as the context. This is where we are. It's a pretty fast-paced environment. Things move pretty quickly. You've got to keep up. You've got to stay ahead. How important is a brand identity in terms of protecting you from simply becoming a commodity, one of the noise? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of, just run-of-the-mill, you're great, but you're not really my first choice.
I think, can I give you an example that actually
Please,
happened to me recently?
Okay.
I was working on a project, and just recently, it was a while ago, a few years ago, and recently I met this founder again, and she told me something that I was like, I left with an open mouth. So she's in the wellness industry, and her salon is in the Jumeirah Road. So there's a lot of there's a whole cluster of, these wellness centers and parlors and stuff like that. So she told me that last year they closed down 40 of those parlors, and her brand was the only brand that was allowed to reopen. So that's the value of branding, because they saw that, her brand reflects the value or the quality of the services that they offer, and it's a solid, offer, solid idea. They have really unique point of view, and the way they deal with customers. So that is a value of branding, essentially.
Okay. So why did 40? That's a lot of closures.
I think generally beauty and wellness industry is really tough industry in Dubai.
I bet.
And it's really difficult to make money also on it. So and it's very, very competitive. So I think there was some miscompliances or something, and they decided just to close everybody just to be safe, I guess. Okay. So that's what happened.
But this through the power of branding and the offering.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Her product is quite really unique, I would say. And when we were working with her, she has really unique visions of she really thinks in terms of branding, not just offering services.
And how to position. Okay.
Yeah, positioning and.
Well, maybe we'll come back to that. I'm interested for anybody who is a founder, might be listening now, but maybe doesn't have access to a large budget. What are the kind of top 3 elements, if you like, of branding that they should get to grips with, that they should deal with if they can't do a full, campaign rebrand with experts, for example? Yeah,
nailing down, and with with AI now, it's becoming more kind of.
It's easier.
Easier, to do. Yeah. So strategizing is important. Understanding who your brand is for and who it is not for as well. So we want also to. We cannot be for everybody. There is a specific kind of customers that we want to serve.
Well, that's a good thing to use AI for, I suppose, isn't it? Because if you use AI as a tool, as a research tool, you could ask AI, I guess, who should my customers be, and who aren't my customers, and then you can really examine how you feel about that or how you direct that. So I suppose that's a positive way of using AI, rather than, as long as you question AI.
Yeah, definitely. And also doing research through AI, because, if you're going on the internet, there's so much information, but with AI, it can really answer your questions quite.
Drill it down.
Yeah. It's just really time efficient in a way. Okay. So you can take all of that information and kind of analyze it in your own way and understand where do you stand on the market. And again, you cannot create something completely new, right? It's just already so many products and services. But how you do things and how you put your message across is very important.
Is it me, or is it quite hard to talk about branding and marketing?
It is.
Because I feel like, and I don't mean that to be impolite to you, I mean it in a complimentary fashion, it's like science and art, sometimes dark arts, but it's a very difficult thing to pin down.
It is, yeah.
It's hard to discuss.
Because it is intangible. It's really difficult to kind of understand how it will pay off in the end, especially if you're talking about business owners.
Yeah.
Talking about this subject sometimes, I had a lot of questions in the past. So why do I need branding? And explaining this is really difficult. if there is no value for it, right? If you're, again, maybe it's like really entry level businesses that don't understand yet where they stand and how to, to put the brand across.
I know. I remember years and years ago, somebody said to me, if you don't believe in advertising, and tried to explain to me the importance of advertising. And I said, yeah, but and he said, well, imagine this. You have a business and you go out of business. What's the first thing you do? You want to sell your business. How do you do that? You advertise it. And then I thought, that's a pretty good point. That kind of works. But it's that little bit beyond tangibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to explain to you why I'm struggling at points. But it's interesting, I think. How can a strong brand compensate for a limited budget? How does something that's strongly branded, the founder really knows what they're trying to do, they're positioning it really well, but they don't have much money? How do they compensate for not having much money?
I think, in my opinion, because I'm brand designer, I think it can overcompensate, over marketing. But of course, it's better if you have budget for both allocated.
Yeah.
Because it takes way less effort to get imprinted in the minds of your customers. And one of the very, very valuable things about branding is that it has to be consistent everywhere. So if you apply it consistently and, doing it in the right way, it's strong brand. It's one of the points, is consistency.
Yeah.
So it just makes it easier for people to come across you, to understand who you are, to remember you. So I think, yes, in a way, it's you can overcompensate with the marketing. Marketing, on the other hand, cannot overcompensate branding. I think
that makes sense.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got you. I want to talk about your story a little bit because it's interesting. You had a career in aviation, right? High stakes career in aviation, and you're now building a creative powerhouse. Let's put it that way. Take us back to when your aviation career was put on hold. What happened, and how did that moment change the way you think or change your plans?
So, I graduated with the bachelor's in graphic design, so it was my background, but I never worked in this field, actually. I'm always passionate about design and arts and all of that. And I wanted to travel, so that's why aviation happened. And in 2020, when pandemic hit, we were sent on, we were furloughed from job for a year. Yep. And then the first thing I did the same day, I met with my friend who was in a similar situation as I. She had a blog on Instagram, so that was her I will do that. And she gave me actually a suggestion, why don't you, venture into graphic design? And she knew so many people who were successful in it on social media. Okay. So, and she gave me an idea, and then I started. I started with the freelance platforms like Fiverr and Upwork. I think a lot of people do start there. But I knew that I could bring so much more value with more strategic approach to branding and not like quick fixes, but giving more meaningful results to my clients. And that's why I started posting more on Instagram. That's where my clients came from and how my freelance career took off. And then from there, I was like, I need to really build a system of, delivering the brands and supporting and all of that journey from A to B. So, explaining ideas and how they fit into the vision of founders, essentially. So it kind of you learn it along the way, but building the systems, how do you manage the project? Because I'm doing everything myself. I manage the project, I create everything, and I deliver everything, essentially. So creating that kind of
But that's a responsibility,
process.
I suppose, isn't it? But it's still a disruption. So you went from one career to something. So it wasn't a linear progression. It just kind of, because it was definitely a turn in the road, wasn't it? What did the transition, the change for you teach you about, how to be strong, how to be resilient at that time? Because that was a tough time.
Yeah, it was a tough time. It was really impossible to find a job at the time. I think we're kind of in a similar situation at the moment, that a lot of people laid off, and it's really difficult to find something else. So I think it's very important to surround yourself with people who think optimistically and who you can bounce ideas off of, and not fall too much into your head, thinking about, being negative, that nothing is going to work.
Yeah, okay.
And trying new things, being experimental. For me, I was fortunate because I had a partner who also supported me through this this time, so I didn't have to think about, and I had savings as well, so that was kind of one of those things that I could support myself at least. So this is very important, and exploring different ideas, what can be there, and just it's really incredible how many opportunities are out there. It's really, really crazy.
Positivity is an amazing thing, isn't it? If you spend more time encouraging people rather than saying to somebody, "Oh, you'll never do that."
Yeah.
No, don't do that. It's not worth doing that.
Yeah.
It's just in the end, you kind of have to take the Dubai attitude to an extent, and I don't mean to be overly glowing, but why not give something a go?
Yeah,
it's good to have that attitude. What did you get from your previous role, the skills in the aviation world that you came from? How does that help you? How did it help you? How does it still help you as an entrepreneur?
I think being a people person, and being empathetic, understand communication is a big one, because it's very intangible, and design may be quite subjective. So communicating the idea is very important in a way that, steering away from the visual, but how does it really serve your brand, and how does it help you stand out in the market? So communication is very, very important. In aviation, communication is one of the top things.
Sure.
Customer service as well. So being customer service centric, building relationships with people as well. And we know everything in Dubai is about relationships and trust. So that's kind of what helped me and still helps me with my projects as well.
We've got about 2 minutes, and I've got a few questions I really want to ask you. First of all, why Saltborn? And second, was there a moment when you knew that Saltborn was going to be much more than a freelance project?
Yes. So first, to answer your question about Saltborn.
Yeah.
As you mentioned from the beginning, it's like, a condiment. Yeah. It's essence. Salt is what gives.
Well, I kind of did that jokingly before we started talking, but that's where it comes from, right?
Yeah, essentially, it gives the flavor, right? It's that essence that gives the flavor to and brings everything to life when you, let's say, eating, right? So when we are consuming brand, that's what that core, that essence that gives everything else a flavor. And then the other meaning is I'm rescue scuba diver. So essentially, one of the reasons why I chose to do designing is. I wanted to support conscious businesses in a way, and because I was scuba diving, I knew and I could see firsthand how our footprint on the earth is really enormous. And that's why I wanted to give power to sustainable businesses through branding. One of the reasons why I actually started this. And I really, at the beginning, I was connecting more with sustainable businesses, but it became much more than that actually at the moment. And the other question is
what was the moment when you knew it would be much more than, this is just at the moment, you knew it was going to become something long term?
I think because I work with small business owners and I'm building my own business at the same time, so I can connect with them better, understand their pain points better, what they are struggling with, and how I can come in. So building a business in a way to understand my people better and quite frankly, I don't want to really scale it too much. I'm quite comfortable where I am at the moment. But there is certain services and like when people come to you, a lot of times they want to have everything together. So the branding, the website, socials. So having that one-stop shop is really useful, especially in Dubai. I'm still okay with where I am. But eventually... that would be the next step to collaborate
you fit, don't you? You feel like you have a place.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final question. Back to founders. Actually, I'm always interested in what founders do and why they do what they do and how things work out or don't. But what's the one thing when you talk to founders, and you talk to a lot? What's the one thing that they often do that you really wish they wouldn't do?
It's trying to serve everybody else and to look like everybody else. They come to me and they say, I want to have, I'm so, and the brands are so incredible, their businesses are so they have so much potential. And you give them concepts and they choose the safest option. So everybody else is already doing this. That's not the point of branding, right? It's not the point of differentiation. We are leaning towards the story, what we are trying to tell. And And yeah, that's what I would. I think I love this quote. I read it somewhere that differentiation requires courage. And I think sometimes business owners are not courageous enough to explore what's out there.
You can see why, but sometimes
it's
calculated risk it's worthwhile in the long run, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. That's another scale or fail. It's been good to talk to you. I appreciate it. Vika Rieva is the founder of Saltborn Creative Marketing and Branded. Good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was lovely.
You can message us directly on whatsapp.mira.fm, or you can also email info@mira.fm.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
It's the morning drive at Mira Business FM. Fitch Ratings says the future of Gulf banks now depends on one key factor, whether the US-Iran ceasefire lasts. Now, while the region's lenders remain well capitalized, slower growth, property risks, and geopolitical uncertainty are starting to reshape the outlook. Senior Director, Head of Middle East Bank Ratings and Islamic Banking as well at Fitch Ratings, Redmond Ramsdale joins me on the line. Redmond, good to have you on the programme. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
We've seen the news regarding the US-Iran ceasefire, of course. There's a sense of, I think we'll use that phrase from 10, 15 years ago, cautious optimism. From your desk at Fitch, Redmond, how fragile is the situation? When you say the future of Gulf banks depends on this ceasefire, are you talking about immediate liquidity? Are you talking about long-term structural health?
Yeah, it's more the latter.
Right.
So if I take a step back, banks have fundamentally been resilient so far throughout this conflict, and that's really because they've entered it in a position of strength. And what do I mean by that? You alluded to some of it. Capital and liquidity buffers are strong. If you look at asset quality, again, sort of low non-performing loans, high loan loss allowances. So all of these buffers and credit fundamentals are in a very good position, which basically puts the banks in a very good position to weather whatever this conflict throws at it. And what we're saying in our latest update is we expect that to continue into the second half of this year, unless there is sort of a resumption of the military conflict. And in particular, it's if there's lasting damage to sort of energy infrastructure or sort of key GCC assets, and particularly if there is a prolonged closure of the strait. And really what we're saying is if this ceasefire holds, then the first order impact, i.e. a big impact on asset quality and liquidity and funding, won't happen. It'll be more the second order, which is really lower non-oil GDP growth. So we're forecasting lower non-oil GDP growth in three countries, actually contracting in three countries. That's Bahrain, that's Qatar, and that's the UAE, Abu Dhabi as well. But also weaker growth in Saudi and in Kuwait. And it's only Oman where it's actually going to be stronger than what we forecast for this year. So what does that mean for banks? Well, it means lower loan growth. It could still be reasonable loan growth, but it means lower loan growth than what we forecast in our 2026 sector outlook for the region's banks at the end of last year. But it also means moderately weaker asset quality and moderately weaker profitability. So that's if the ceasefire holds. So overall, all these buffers create quite good protection against sort of near-term credit risks.
Okay, so you have changed the sector outlook from neutral to deteriorating in your latest reports. Banks are still well capitalized, as you point out, that we're very well aware of. So the alarm bells that we're hearing, that you're commenting on, really, it's really simply continued uncertainty.
Well, our sector outlook revision to deteriorating reflects the war. It reflects these adverse macroeconomic inputs that I just mentioned, i.e. that weaker non-oil real GDP growth, and then the knock-on impact that will have on lower growth for the banks. And that deteriorating sector outlook is quite distinct from a rating outlook. So I think you're probably right in terms of how you just said it.
Okay, you forecasted that non-oil GDP growth in several GCC states would contract this year. How is that slowdown translating into loan growth for the banks? And are we seeing a pullback in lending to the key sectors, the real estate or logistics?
Okay. Yeah, so really what it means is it just means there's going to be less business activity out there. It doesn't mean there's not any business activity out there, because we can actually see that there is. we were forecasting for the region loan growth of about 8% for 2026. Now that's actually really strong. What we'll probably see is something closer to 6% if the ceasefire holds. So weaker growth, this is loan growth, but still pretty respectable. I would still say a lot of countries and a lot of regions would be quite happy with 6% growth.
Sure.
So it's just less sort of business activity. Yeah, there is going to be less lending into tourism, potentially real estate, but it's still carrying on for sure.
In terms of asset quality, are you concerned that banks are currently maybe underestimating the second round effects of the conflict? Where is the risk most concentrated right now? Is it the SME sector, or are we looking at larger, maybe more systemic infrastructure projects?
Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess to start with, lower growth, lower business activity will have an impact across the board. But it is those more impacted segments that and all the related activity with those more impacted segments. So yes, it is SMEs. So it's also the aviation sector, the logistics sector, generally the transport, definitely, the real estate sector. From a bank point of view, SME lending is actually relatively small. Tourism as well. Tourism as a proportion of banks' books is also quite small. It's probably about 3% of banks' books. So again, these more impacted sectors, it is manageable for the banks, and that's why we're saying there's going to be a tick up, in sort of NPLs, but the buffers are there to weather this. The growth, the operating environment that we've seen, particularly the UAE since the end of the pandemic, has been really strong. So we've seen really good business conditions. So the banks have built up really good buffers and had really good growth, in the build up to that.
We've seen some banks pivot towards private placement, syndicated loans to navigate market volatility. Is that a sign of market strength, or is it a necessity because public debt markets they're kind of closed to some players?
Yeah, I think the fact that when the first ceasefire, that sort of memorandum of understanding kicked in, we very quickly saw the banks moving to these private placements. The fact that they can do that so quickly actually shows me that there is confidence. So regionally and internationally, there is confidence in the region, and investors are expecting the region to, quickly go back to, somewhere where it was, somewhere like where it was before. So the fact that the banks could do a lot of those private placements, and then obviously we quite quickly saw banks then enter back into the public market, and that was obviously particularly in the subordinated space. Where pricing is quite good, and now we've seen sort of most of the big issuers of the region back in those public debt markets, and also some banks under that as well. So I think that's actually quite a good sign, and I think that does show that confidence has come back.
A large part of the rating strength for GCC banks is that expectation of government support, as you said. I mean, if a major conflict occurs, as we've seen, does the fiscal strength of these sovereigns, is it a firewall against banking failure, or is that support, or at what point does that support itself become strained?
Yeah, okay. It's a good question, and I will answer it in a few different parts. I mean, over 85% of our bank ratings in the region are actually driven by government support. So without going into too much detail, our methodology, we look at support and we look at standalone strength for the banks. And whichever of those two elements is the higher, that drives the long-term issuer default rating. And because we are in such a supportive region and sovereign creditworthiness is very strong, it's actually government support that is driving the majority of those bank ratings. But that is extraordinary support. So if we look underneath that, then we have our viability ratings, which across sort of the larger banks are well into the investment grade. And it's that where I'm talking about the strong liquidity and capital buffers. Now, if I go into sort of ordinary support rather than extraordinary support, that very much exists as well. So, for instance, about 20 to 30% of bank deposits on average, typically for the region, is coming from the government and government-related entities. That in itself is kind of ordinary support. But what did we see sort of just coming into this conflict? We saw 3 of the GCC countries come out with these support packages. And the right way to frame that is these are preemptive support packages. This is not acute banking strength. This is to, how do I put it, maintain confidence. This is to, be preventative. This is to sort of limit temporary deposit volatility. Again, it's very good for to keep confidence in the banking systems in the region, and confidence really is key.
We await a ceasefire agreement that becomes a peace deal in 35 days or so. That's the hope, or at least an extension to the ceasefire. But who and where and why and how faces the greatest pressure if there are tensions again?
Yeah. Well, again, for the banks, if you look at the bank's books, it's those more affected sectors. As I was mentioning, it's sort of the infrastructure, the tourism, the real estate, the logistics. It is the SMEs, because obviously, as I was saying earlier, they might be a small exposure for banks, but SMEs are less able to, they've got less buffers, they're less able, to sort of, withstand the pressures than say the larger corporates. So it's very much there. We were talking about that non-oil real GDP growth earlier.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 countries that are going to contract. We've got 2 where growth is going to be lower, and then we've got 1 where is arguably actually slightly higher. So you can extract that as well. Obviously, real estate. There's a question mark about real estate and whether we're going to have a contraction, and if we are having a contraction, how big that contraction is. So there is obviously pressure on the UAE and particularly Dubai from real estate. Dubai and the UAE are also sort of, they're a hub, but they're attracting this big population inflow, this big liquidity inflow. The authorities are expecting a really big, population increase over time, as we've seen since, the visa restrictions and the start of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. What it might impact is sort of confidence about this investment hub. It might not take it away, it absolutely probably won't, but it might just slow things down. It might just slow down the population increase. So I think it's all those different areas.
Okay, let me bring it back to real estate for a moment. It's obviously front and center here. The property market, particularly in Dubai, is mentioned as a risk, but just how concerned should investors be in that case?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, obviously, we predicted before this crisis, this conflict, that we could see up to a 15% correction, and that's a correction. And obviously, that's after a 60% increase in property prices since 2022. So obviously, a very big increase. So that's not actually a huge correction. But obviously, I'm a bank analyst, so I look at it from the bank point of view.
Yep.
First thing I would say is real estate, commercial real estate, so corporate real estate, commercial real estate is now about 13% of banks' books. Back at the end of 2021, it was around 20%. So we've actually seen a reduction anyway. So that means it's more manageable. And obviously there are levers that the authorities and the builders, the home builders can, use which is obviously managing the supply. So I think we've just got to see how this conflict sort of pans out, really. But obviously, 13% of the banking sector, the UAE banking sector, is quite significant. I mean, really, what we've done is we've said our concerns are obviously more with the smaller banks that have the higher real estate concentration, and some small banks have real estate making up almost 40% of their books. Smaller banks quite often are 20%, but going all the way up to 40%. So obviously, in the event that there is a greater correction than, say, 15%, so we think 15%, if it happens, is manageable. But if it is greater than that, then it's definitely going to put asset quality under pressure.
We talk to lots of people in the industry, real estate industry here, and I think one thing that comes from the correction argument, a pundit in this studio would just put that as a recalibration, doesn't see it in any way as a correction, perhaps even an overdue recalibration, Redmond.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, recalibration, correction, I think they're quite similar. I certainly didn't use a different word, i.e. crash. I am, a correction is a healthy thing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't completely disagree. But really, there are definitely risks around this. This is what we're saying.
Sure. Okay, so despite the uncertainty, I mean, the overall picture is that at Fitch, there is certainly a feeling of confidence, I think it's fair to say. Correct me if I'm wrong here. There's certainly a feeling of confidence in the resilience of the GCC banks. That much I'm getting from you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, as I said sort of at the start of our interview, the banks' fundamentals are resilient. They've entered this conflict in a very strong position in terms of the asset quality, profitability, building up, provisions, what we call loan loss allowances, the fact that the liquidity and capital buffers are really quite strong. Yeah. So that puts them in a very good standing to deal with whatever is thrown at them. And really, it goes back to if this ceasefire holds in the form it is without, this big resumption to military conflict impacting things like the Straits and big GCC assets and energy assets, then things should be manageable. So I agree, resilience is probably the key word here.
I mean, the potential for the Strait of Hormuz to remain a flashpoint is clearly weighing on the markets, right? But if we see even a temporary resumption of conflict, what is the first indicator of stress you would expect to see in regional bank balance sheets?
Yeah, I mean, I guess watching what happens with the Strait is obviously key to this, and obviously, a prolonged closure is where we're going to see the most stress hitting the banking sector. Otherwise, things that we're looking at, but obviously a little bit more long term, really is things like those asset quality metrics. So what is happening to the bank's stage 3 loan ratios? This is the NPLs, non-performing loans, but also what's happening to the stage 2 loans, i.e. this increase in credit risk. Are they actually becoming quite a large proportion of the bank's books? Because these are the loans that could tip into the NPL category, relatively quickly if things escalate. So certainly that. We're certainly looking at the health in the real estate market, the health in the in the tourism industry, the aviation industry. It's not the likes of the airlines or things that we're concerned about, because obviously they've got the state government backing, but it's all the firms that work with them. It's that supply chain. It's also looking at the bank's profitability. Yeah, we're already expecting lower profitability, but as I said earlier, it's moderately lower profitability. However, if we see a real drop in things like non-interest income and a real spike in loan impairment charges, then that's definitely going to put the bank's viability ratings under pressure.
It's very hard to account for the feeling here, and I don't mean to be wishy-washy in any way, but the bounce back ability, it's a word we kind of bandy around here, but the bounce back ability of Dubai, of the UAE, of the region. So I'm not going to go there, but let's take a more positive approach in in this way. If the Strait of Hormuz remains open, diplomacy holds, things are moving forward, how quickly could confidence and I guess an uptick in banking activity, how quickly will we see a recovery of sorts, for want of a better word?
Yeah, I'd almost argue that we're already seeing it. As I said, banks are resilient.
Yeah.
The fundamentals are there. Growth will be slightly slower, but I was talking about maybe 6% loan growth for the region versus 8%. That's pretty decent, and that's what we expect for this year now. Something in that magnitude. So I would say it's already there. The fact that banks are issuing in the public markets now, and the risk premium is virtually nothing, tells you that confidence is back. Obviously, we need to see all banks issuing and things like that. But I would say, things are looking reasonably well, and I would go back to that word that you emphasised, resilience.
It's been the word of the moment, no doubt about it. Bounce back ability, not a word, but becoming a word very fast here. That much I know. Redmond, final question for you. What's the one message that business leaders and investors should take away from your latest assessment at Fitch?
Yeah. Okay. It's probably just a summary of kind of what I've been saying. So we believe the banks are resilient. We believe that we can see that the capital buffers and the liquidity buffers are strong. So overall financial fundamentals are strong. We're obviously expecting slightly slower growth and a moderately weaker asset quality and profitability. That's what's driving our deteriorating sector outlook. And really what that means is, business conditions are not going to be quite as strong in 2026 as 2025, but pretty reasonable, actually.
Okay. I feel so much better for having spoken to you this morning, so I thank you for that. Redmond Ramsdale, Senior Director, Head of Middle East Bank Ratings and Islamic Banking at Fitch Ratings. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Join Mira Business FM on LinkedIn. Follow us there to be closer to the experts.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the Morning Drive. The latest GCC People Pulse from Ipsos and Employee Experience Exchange reveals a surprising contradiction in the region's workforce. Employees are more confident in their organisations than the global average, but half say they're under constant strain at work. While at the same time, AI optimism is rising alongside fears over job security. So there are some seemingly disconnects there. So what do these findings mean for business leaders across the Gulf? James Tarbett is Global Head of Employee Experience at the market research and public opinion consulting firm Ipsos. The man with the answers, I'm hoping. And he's here, so no pressure, James.
Well,
good to meet you.
No, good to meet you, Tim. Thank you very much for having me on.
I want to get to grips with this kind of contradiction. It's almost a conundrum, I think. The new GCC People Pulse Tracker shows, I'm going to quote here, regional employee sentiment significantly outperforms the global benchmark, 9 points higher in advocacy, 22 points higher in confidence. Why is the GCC, the Gulf, first of all, bucking the trend, the global trend of worker disengagement? Let's start there.
So you've used a really interesting word there, which is disengagement. This concept of how do people show up at work? How do they feel about the organization they work for? And what does that mean for some kind of outcome, engagement, whether it's engagement with their work, whether it's engagement with their organization?
Yeah.
Data is a funny thing. You can make it do whatever you want. You can create whatever narrative you like out of data.
Sure you can.
And there are some organizations that will say that, yes, disengagement is on the increase and people are less happy at work and less satisfied and less loyal. Other times you can look at it, you can say, well, it depends whereabouts you're coming from. You know, lots of the headlines about, well, workers have never been more disengaged. How far back are you looking? Are you looking 1, 5, 10 years?
Okay.
Broadly speaking, I would say, from our data and what we see, we haven't seen radical changes in the sentiment and the satisfaction that people have in their workplace. Actually, if you look back far enough, like back to the 1940s, 1950s, we're happier at work than we have been before. So I think you have to look at where you're starting from and what you're comparing to. Regardless of that, certainly from the data in the GC People Pulse that we've just released, there's high levels of positivity in this region. There's high sentiment towards recommending the organization. There's very high levels of confidence. The confidence one I think is particularly interesting to me because it's considerably, I think, 22 points above the global average.
Well, exactly right. So you've got this super high confidence. 81% of employees would recommend their employer. 54% of your respondents report being under constant strain. We're getting to the conundrum, I guess, now. So when employees are happy with the company direction, but they're exhausted by whatever it is, the daily grind, for example, one, how can both be true? And two, what's the biggest risk for a business leader, if that's the case?
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting. So we used the word strain in our question and we used it advisedly because strain is the physiological or the psychological response to stress and pressure.
Okay.
So when you're going through life, you come under stress, you come under pressure. It might be in your personal life, it might be in your work life. And if you react to that negatively, if that causes a negative response, that's being under strain. So strain isn't the same necessarily as stress, or it's not necessarily the same as just being under pressure.
But you stress kind of, it's stress, oh, I'm so stressed today.
Yeah.
No, you're just busy.
Yeah, exactly. What you're describing is the feeling that you have in response to the stressors in your life. And I think one of the interesting things working in HR and employee experience is stress is an odd concept because employees generally hold their organization accountable for stress and strain,
Sure.
where their organization isn't necessarily responsible for that stress.
You've got to blame someone, I suppose.
You've got to blame someone, and I guess it's easy to blame the place that you spend 8 hours of your waking day in your organization. But if you've had a particularly bad argument with your wife, if your youngest 6-year-old hypothetically woke up at 4:45 in the morning and wouldn't go back to sleep, that puts you in a different mindset for the day. Hypothetically, a very specifically aged 6-year-old daughter. Then by the time you get into work, the, whatever you want to call it, the resilience that you have to deal with the stresses, the pressures of everyday life are different. But you're still going to say to your organization, I feel under strain, you're stressing me out. I don't feel particularly good today. So strain is that. And you're right that kind of there's an odd paradox. There's an odd dichotomy in the data of people feel very, very positively about their organization, but are reporting very, very high levels of strain. And not just strain, constant strain as well.
Yeah, well, that's the phrase.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I could point to. One is a fairly obvious elephant in the room, which is what's been going on in this region over the past few months.
Sure.
Because again, what does this look back at? This was research that was conducted within the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
So it's after the 28th of February, if you will. And it's looking back over the past few months to describe, well, how are people feeling? So it's not perhaps surprising that you have relatively high levels of strain in this region at the moment.
We're all not sure, to be fair, at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty in
There
there.
is. There is.
Right.
We call it protected anxiety. Ipsos loves putting labels on things.
That's a great. I'm writing that down.
So
I'm gonna
protected
steal
anxiety is this
Right.
concept that I can look out of my window and I can see people going to the mall and going to restaurants and sitting on the beach, and I'm being told that life is normal by the government, by the media, by my organization.
Yeah.
So I feel on one side protected. And I think what this region has done very well is kind of that narrative of protection, of resilience, of things are normal, we continue, we stand strong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in all of our own heads, psychologically, we're preparing for, well, what if?
Yeah.
What if something changes? What if things go back to the way they were or don't progress in the way we want to? And that tension that we're feeling in our own heads, that's protected anxiety, because it's shaping lots of citizen, lots of consumer, and lots of employee behavior as well. You see it in everything from the way that we're taking much more value-based decisions in what we buy at the moment. We're looking at the price tags of things more because we might feel like we need to control our finances better in case we need it. Ironically, you're also seeing splurging. You're saying, well, if everything goes to hell in a handcart tomorrow, at least I've had a staycation at Atlantis the Royal today. So you are seeing people taking kind of convenient luxuries and making quite luxury-based purchasing decisions at the moment in the consumer context. In the employee world, when you think about all of that, it's perhaps not 100% surprising that, sure, I still like working for my organization because my organization has a purpose. It's a purpose that's linked with our national purpose here in the UAE or in KSA or in any of the markets that we've done this research on. Because one thing organizations are very good at doing in this region is tying their purpose to some kind of bigger narrative that the country is progressing towards. So I hear all of that, I get it, and that drives a sentiment, but sentiment isn't necessarily the same as the behavior or kind of how I'm actually experiencing it. Strain is much more about the day-to-day experience of life, whereas something like advocacy or confidence is about logically what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing.
I like that you use the word strain in this instance. I mean, strain leads to fatigue and burnout and maybe poor decision making. Is this strain coming from excessive workload, the pace of digital transformation? Is it something else unique to the Gulf? Because this is a region with ambition in its work environment.
Yeah, it's a region with ambition. It's a region that moves fast.
Yeah.
It's a region that is describes itself as hustling.
Sure.
Again, that's a very positive thing, but it can also lead to quite negative aspects.
Yeah.
Again, if we think back through history, whenever you've had radical change or rapid change, you've seen the challenging aspects of that, as well as the kind of positivity and around that progression, around that speed and that pace.
Because do you know what? I get to the end of the week, we have a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and to talk to all those people, there is a level of research. This is not brain surgery. I'm not making it out to be more than it is. But on a Friday, I am mentally quite tired at the end of the week, and I figure I'm no different to anybody else in working in Dubai or in this region. So and I'm not saying I'm working towards burnout. I don't feel burned out, but is burnout through the strain of the pace of the work and the environment here, is that a hidden business risk beginning to emerge, do you think?
Yeah, no, very much so. I think you've termed it exactly right, because again, if you think about the impact strain has on an employee, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to not love their company. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to leave their company.
Yeah,
but what it 100% does mean is they're going to be behaving in a different way. We've done lots of research with clients in the banking sector, in the technology sector, in the operations sector that looks at what is the impact of strain on decision-making and on judgment in the workplace. And absolutely consistently, what happens is you see the employees that are under quite significant levels of strain behaving in a fundamentally different way to those that aren't. And it's in a negative way. They're taking decisions that feel convenient. They're taking decisions that fit into the time they have to make that decision. They're taking decisions based on what worked last time rather than thinking about what could be better, what could be more efficient, what could be more innovative. Right. So if organizations are looking to progress, looking to succeed, they need new ideas, they need accountability, they need innovation. All of those things are impacted negatively when you have an employee that's under strain. So it's a hidden risk, you're right, because you might have people that are sticking around in your organization for the long term who still feel under that sense of strain, and therefore they're not operating, they're not thriving for themselves, self-actualization, well-being and all that, but they're also not thriving for your organization.
The data also suggests that employee confidence is one of the strongest drivers of advocacy. So what are the best organizations doing differently? What are they doing well?
So confidence is based around trust, it's based around familiarity, it's based around reputation. In essence, to be confident in something, you need to know what it is, you need to believe in what it's telling you, and you need to feel some kind of sense of involvement in it.
Sure.
So whenever we see organizations with high levels of confidence, with high levels of trust in their leadership, they're generally or purpose-led, mission-led, cool, all of that good stuff. But what they're good at doing is communicating and translating all of that narrative to their employees. Because you can have the best strategy, you can have the most highfalutin purpose in the sector, but if your employees don't know about it, don't believe in it, don't feel involved in it in some way, then they're not going to have a confidence because you're just asking them to trust what you say completely on face value. Leaders in organizations need to be good at informing but also involving their employees and helping them to understand what the change an organization is going through means for them. Yesterday you were doing it this way, tomorrow we're doing it that way, and here's the benefit and here's the reason why. Once you can put that across consistently, transparently, authentically as a CEO, as a leader of an organization, you're going to have a lot higher levels of confidence in that. I think the other thing about confidence as well is it's not, again, entirely in the gift of organizations to build. What we see when we do the research is how closely confidence in an organization and in the future of an organization is linked to broader confidence in the economy, in the direction of the country in which the employee is based. We did some research on this a couple of years ago. It's a very, very close link. That idea of if you work in an organization, in an economy that is telling a good narrative about itself, that's growing fast, that's not like an endurance economy like we're seeing in some of the Western kind of world at the moment, where they're being buffeted by socio-economic and socio-political things that are not of their own making, that they can't shape. They're just having to react to it. Confidence is much easier to capture because, again, what they hear from their leader is similar to what they hear from their media, from their government, from their leader outside of the workplace too. I think far too often people take different kinds of research, different kinds of experience and want to compartmentalize or silo them. Employee experience is employee experience, customer experience is customer experience. But we're all people, we're all humans, and quite often the things that we feel outside of the workplace, they don't disappear when we walk through the door.
More than quite often, I would think. Let's drill down into your research a little bit more. Nearly 1 in 4 employees plans to leave within the next, I think it's 2 years, a couple of years. Should employers be worried or more worried about the retention problems that they face?
This is one of those things about data. We can take it in lots of different ways. Should we be worried? So the first thing about that question, we ask that question a lot. The reason we ask that question is when we've done longitudinal analysis, we found it's very predictive of actual behavior. Right. If you say in a survey, particularly your own organization's survey, that you intend to leave within 2 years, the chances are you're going to have left within that 2-year period. Okay. We've got some organizations, we've done it where it's like it predicts 60% of attrition. So it's a very good predictive indicator of actual employee behavior. So you can say if 24% of people are saying in this research they're going to leave within a few points for margin of error, about that many are going to have left within 2 years. So is it bad that a quarter of your employees are leaving within 2 years? Well, that means probably about 12% each year. So you need to have a look at your own attrition data and say, well, is that what we'd expect? Is that what's healthy? Not all attrition is bad. Sure. You need to have new ideas. You need to have that regeneration of the workforce in your organization. So
wheat from the chaff.
Wheat from the chaff.
Maybe that's a little bit extreme, but you know what I mean.
I would say that at a headline level, that statistic wasn't surprising or concerning to me. Okay. But what I would do as an organization is look at where are my hotspots? Where is that higher? Again, when we broke it down by country, for example, Qatar showed higher levels of attrition risk. I think it was the third in Qatar. So is that more concerning? Are there populations by ethnicity, by gender, by age, where it's more of a risk?
Middle career employees appear from your data to have the highest attrition risk. So why? Why is that so particularly important?
Middle-aged people or mid-career people, you just have to kind of equate it to what does that mean practically for what their lives are like in an organization.
Right.
I mean, we'll talk in generalities. They'll probably tend to be middle career. They'll probably tend to be middle management. They'll probably tend to be around the middle of the seniority levels of the organization. What does that mean for their job? Well, it means they have to take a lot of strategy down from the leaders and work out how to do that strategy, how to disseminate that strategy. They also need to be operationally efficient because actually it's not all about strategy, it's about actually doing the thing. They're often line managers of other line managers, so there's all of the stuff they're getting hit by marketing, HR, communications. They need to manage their own team. That population within an organization has to deal with a lot, has to do a lot, and is under a lot of pressure. They're also the people that probably have got to a stage where they know a lot about the organization. There's a lot of inherent understanding and experience there. So the fact that they're more likely to want to leave, one, might not be surprising. They're under high levels of pressure. Two, should be concerning because all of that knowledge is going to walk out of the organization. Generally speaking, you tend to say the cost of attrition is about 1.5, 1.7 times someone's salary. So there's a financial cost to it. But actually, I would say in that particular population, the real cost is how on earth are you going to replace them?
Here's the AI question. There has to be an AI question in every.
And we've done well to
interview.
get so far without.
I know. I've held it off for a while, actually. 73% of your respondents see AI as a business enabler. Fine, that's understandable. But nearly half fear for long-term job security. So if you're a leader of an organization, how do you resolve that tension? Can you, because it's coming whether we like it or not, can you implement AI without losing trust in your staff?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's a really good question. I think, take the first bit. Yes, there is this duality in the data, and we don't just see it with this research. Every single time we ask anyone about AI, we're all so confused about AI.
Exactly that, yeah.
I mean, we do a big piece of annual research in about 50 different countries called Global Trends. And last time we did it, we found that, and I can't remember the precise statistics, but people were very concerned about technology destroying the world. People were very excited about technology because it was the only thing that could save us. They were worried about their privacy. They thought, well, we have to be on social media. And the percentages all overlapped. I mean, we've just released a piece of research this week called Flare Qatar that looked at, again, Qatari workforce. And 62% of them thought that AI was going to create a lot of jobs. And 69% of them thought that AI was going to destroy a lot of jobs. So a third of them think that AI is going to both create and destroy a lot of jobs. Yeah. And I'm not sure whether it's the same ones. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's fascinating to see how many organizations are laying people off because of AI and then quietly 6 months later realizing they probably need to hire quite a lot of them back. Yeah. So I think we're really in turmoil about AI. I think the thing that organizations need to get much better at doing, though, is realizing that AI is it's a cultural change. It's probably one of the biggest behavioral changes that we have going on and have done for a period of time. It's not marketing. It's not training. It's not, oh, aren't you so lucky that we've bought Gemini for everyone in the organization? Off you go and use it. It is a cultural change program. Yeah. And I think it's really being fundamentally misunderstood by most organizations because what they think you can do is buy everyone AI, maybe give them a 1-hour training. But it's frightening, by the way, all the research we do in different countries about how little training people are getting. But you give them a bit of training and you just think they're just going to somehow, by osmosis, understand how to utilize it in their role. You need to treat it like a cultural change. You need to win hearts and minds. You need to help people understand how it applies to their role. Because all of the data in here about concern about AI for job security, all of the data that we see elsewhere about concern about technology more general, again, is born out of concern and fear. And fear is because you're not aware, you're not familiar, you don't trust, you're not involved. The same behaviors need to hold. We just did launch some research yesterday from Denmark, which may not be entirely applicable to the GCC, but go with me, which was looking at how do people interact with AI? What support do they get as employees? Right. And one, support is terrible. Two, one of the biggest predictors of whether people would use AI frequently and use it in their role was whether their line manager was encouraging them to do it. So yet again, you have the situation where it's the line manager, it's that middle population who are responsible for creating enthusiasm, creating a desire to interact with a new thing. And again, that's exactly what you'd get in a cultural change and operational transformation. So the concern doesn't surprise me. The confusion definitely doesn't surprise me because we're all confused. What concerns me is, again, how organizations are doing it in terms of AI adoption, but also when we've done broader research, how closely concern about AI is also linked to what we were talking about earlier, which is strain. So whenever we've done workforce research, the people who are concerned about AI are also the people that are saying they're exhibiting quite high levels of strain. Now, that's correlation is not causation. I'm not saying you fix one, you fix the other, but it's interesting.
It is. Because it seems to be at the moment that I would guess in many organizations, it's as simple as this. Here's Claude, here's Gemini, here's Copilot. We're paying for it. Make sure you use it.
Yeah.
Really,
but don't make sure you use it too much because we're over our tokens for this month. Because we haven't thought about that for our P&L. But,
yeah, exactly. Work hours only. But I mean, that's really interesting. So, what role does leadership communication play during a period of AI transformation and economic change and cultural change?
Yeah. I've said the words a couple of times, but just to link them together and make it really clear, the two biggest predictors of employee response to change are information and involvement. Yeah. Any change, whether it's a new strategy, a new structure, people being laid off, we've all bought Claude, you need to inform people and you need to inform them in a very specific way. Yesterday you were doing this, tomorrow you were doing that, and here is the reason why. But then they need to feel a level of involvement. They need to feel a level of engagement with the concept, not employee engagement, kind of engagement in terms of...
It's more than that. It's ownership, really, in some way.
Well, ownership is great, but of course, you can't always have ownership because, and we're all adults, we're all mature, we know that we can't drive the change ourselves. We're being done to most of the time with change. But do I at least have the sense that I've been able to discuss it, ask questions, get a response from my peers, from my manager, from someone in some sense of authority? If you get information and you get involvement, actually change is, I wouldn't say easy because change is not easy, but it's much easier because you'll actually have built that bedrock of understanding and belief before you really implement it too much.
Have you got a little bit more time? We're over time, but I've got a lot of questions to ask you.
Gladly.
Appreciate it. Looking at this data, 78% of people in the region feel they can be themselves at work. I'm interested in this because I'm wondering what being yourself means in data terms. How much of this being yourself is driven by, I don't know, aggressive nationalisation policies or a push for, everybody's, our workplace culture, a very distinct workplace culture, seems to be a mantra.
Belonging is an interesting concept. There's lots of ways we could have asked this question. The one we picked is kind of, again, it's grounded in a slight sense of self-actualization. Do I look around and think that I'm in a place where I can be myself, where I can bring my whole self to work? Yeah. It's interesting because this is the statistic in the research that is lower than external benchmarks. So quite often the GCC employees are saying they're much more positive than, say, elsewhere. And again, so when we compared benchmarks for this research, we have a global employee database of about 3.5 million responses from all of the research that we do with clients globally. So we're comparing this population to that. And mostly they're very, very positive. For this one, it was a bit lower. And I think you could look at that in a number of ways. You could look at that as it's such a melting pot here. And what are you belonging to? Sure. Do you belong to the organization? Do you belong to your diaspora? Do you belong to the GCC or the UAE because of where we're all going as a nation? It would also be convenient, I think, because we also look at nationalisation in this report, to aggregate and think, inclusion and representation is going very well for nationals, but it's causing a problem for others. And I don't think it's that, because nationalisation isn't a zero-sum game. Whenever you have any kind of programme of representation for a particular portion of the population, it doesn't mean that the rest of the population should necessarily be negatively impacted, as long as you design it well. And again, as long as you communicate it effectively. And so again, I'd look at this statistic, and if I was in an organization, I'd say, well, how are we putting across the progress that we're making towards nationalization agendas? Are we doing it in a way that makes people understand that that's not instead of belonging, that's not instead of inclusion? Are we looking at how people are progressing through the organization, or are we just saying, last year we had 6% of this population and now it's 8%, and kind of tick, pat on the back, and there we go? Because the way that you talk about this from a inclusion, from an equity, from a representation point of view is very important. And we've seen that from other DEI work in other countries with other agendas, be it gender, be it people of determination or disability, and other areas like that.
You said that advocacy, recommending your company to others is a lead indicator of performance. So if a staff member is an advocate, and I'm going back to the earlier part of our conversation really, but this is in my head. If you're an advocate, but you're also strained, how long does that high performance last before it's time for me? It's time for me to get to the exit.
Yeah. So what we talk about for advocacy and performance. So again, it actually goes to the very first thing you said around engagement. So the way that employee engagement is measured is often quite passive sentiment, pride, motivation, satisfaction. Advocacy is a bit more active because it's actually describing a behavior. Pride is just a thing. But advocacy is saying, next time you have a conversation about a great place that you want to go and be employed by, I'll recommend my place to you. So it's more predictive of performance from that point of view because it actually looks at the behavior. You're right that eventually, if you're constantly under strain, why would you recommend anything to anyone? Because it's making you ill or it's making you burn out. The strain is a leading indicator of burnout. Burnout is the thing that's happened, and once it's happened, you can measure it, but it's too late. So I would say that the inflection point is difficult to identify, and it's probably better for me to sit here and say I don't know than kind of try and explain it. But I would say that at some point, if you constantly have a negative experience, at some point your sentiment, your engagement will disappear, will fall.
Okay, so employee feedback, these are all things, they're rattling around my brain at the moment. You got me thinking. There you go. Employee feedback appears to double advocacy and loyalty.
Yeah.
So why do so many organizations, even now, struggle to build a genuine, if I say listening, why do they struggle with listening culture?
It's an interesting one. So I've been in this region just over a year.
Yeah.
And previously I was in the UK. So I've seen lots of different ways that lots of different markets.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is Power List with Tatiana on Mira Business FM, and today we have a special guest this week, Adham Al-Bloushi, Golden Extreme CEO. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Tires, they seem a very simple product. And why are they so important in the economy?
Yes, first of all, that I'm happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me. My name is Adham Al-Bloushi. I am the group CEO of the Golden Extreme Group. Mm-hmm. We are based in Dubai, and we are active in tire business, wholesale, export, and logistic. And we are doing a regional trade. You know that many people, they look as for the tire as a simple product, but based on my experience, it is most important items in the economy of any country because it's connected to everywhere. It's connected to the port, logistic, transportation, and if there is no tires, there is no movement of the people, there is no movement of the goods, economic, and the ports. So, based on my experience, it is one of the most economic products, which is very important in all the industries.
And how did your company start, and how did you enter this business?
Actually, that we were, first of all, that we were doing a transport business in 2008 and 2009, that we faced a shortage of the tire industries. When the economic, it was booming, and we couldn't source the tires for our own vehicles. So this happened that we search for these items and start, that we start to sell to our people and to our neighbors, which they were doing the same business. Today, that we are serving more than 20 countries around the globe. We are mainly active in GCC and East Africa. So this was our roadmap in the tire.
Okay, and in general, in the UAE, how many billions in this business?
This business actually that in 2025 it was around $6 or $7 billion, and we are expecting that we are going to have a growth, that it will reach to $8.4 billion by 2030. And in general, in the world, that only tire business is $143 billion.
Okay.
And in 2030, we are expecting that it will reach to 174. So we are going to see around $30 billion increase of this market in next, I think, 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm. And why UAE is so important for trading and re-export of tires?
UAE actually that it is the main hub of whole GCC and Africa. A lot of countries and a lot of customers, they come here, they buy and they do their re-exporting from the port, from the finance, and from everything is there. And I think the UAE that we don't want to be anymore only a trading hub. We want to be a logistic hub, manufacturing hub, quality control hub. And I think that in next few years that you will see a lot of change in the region, in this market, especially now that I think that we are going to have some of the R&D services here, that we are going to have some of the factories are here, infrastructure is coming. So, that we don't want to be only a trading part or re-exporting part, So I think in next few years that we are going to see a lot of change in the whole industry, inshallah.
Mm-hmm. We have 22 Arabic countries in the region, correct?
Yes.
And I've heard that Egypt
Yes.
is a big manufacturer for the tires. And what is the future for the UAE? Huh?
Actually, that, after the COVID, a lot of countries, they started to do their own factories and everything. And what is happening now that they announced the $1 billion project in Egypt for the manufacturing of the tires.
Is it with the internal investment or
External investment?
external?
Yes,
External.
yes. They have a collaboration with one of the overseas factories, and they were going to build the first, I think, or second tire manufacturers in Egypt, which is going to change the whole game of the Egypt. That not only the Egypt, the whole region, because now that tire, it is a heavy item, and it is going to take a lot of space, and it needs to be put in the containers. As long as if there is any conflict and the shipping price increase, it will affect directly on the tires. So it will have effect in the economic, it will have effect on the pricing. And this step which has happened in the Egypt, I think that is going to have a very good impact on the market and the region. But for them, they have a very big consumption internally. So I'm not sure that if they can be able, to produce more to export to the other countries. But I think it is a very good start, and that is a sign we can do it in our country also.
And what are the challenges for the distributors of the tires in the UAE?
The challenges that everyone is facing, one is that they have to have a strong supply chains. If there is any conflict, if there is any shipping prices there, if there is any spike on the other prices of the oil and the raw material, it will increase the prices. Availability of the goods is one of the things, and the second one, they have to manage the cash flow, they have to manage the customer, they have to manage inventory, they have to manage everything all together, which is not only that one part, it is a whole ecosystem, that it has to be managed.
Mm-hmm. And how are important the tires in the truck business, for example?
Tires actually is the main item in any economy of the countries, but unfortunately, people they don't see it today. That we have more than 500,000 of hot trucks available in the UAE. Each of them, they need to have tires. If there is no tires, nothing moves. That we are here today, sitting in this area because of the tires. Just assume that one of the tires of your car is not there or is not working. The whole movement will stop. That we have the buses, we have the trucks, we have the cars, we have the fleet, we have the port equipment and everything. Whatever you see, it moves only because that we are importing tires. If there is no tires, nothing will move and everything will collapse.
And what matters to the customers most? The price, the quality, from where the tire is exported?
Actually, that now for any market, the first thing which is important is the price. It's very important. But now the customers, they have the knowledge with the technology and everything. They need to have a good quality items with a good price. So it is the combination of that one. And in the UAE, that we have a very hot climate, and there is the usage of the tires also. It is too much. So we should have a specific product which it has been designed for our region with a good quality and good price. That is the most important thing which customers are asking.
And how the recent conflicts influenced the prices of the tires?
That as I told you, you have the tire. It is a heavy item, and it moves on the bulk. It moves on the containers. As long as there is a conflict, the shipping price will increase. As long as the shipping price increase, all the price of the market will increase. And if the tire price also that increase, it will affect all of our transportation. And if our transportation also that increase, it will affect the whole items. But one of the good things that it was there in this conflict which has happened, we were fully loaded with the stock, and we could control the price, so don't spike, at the time.
When we were talking with you, you mentioned electric vehicles.
Yes.
Correct? And
yes.
how tires can influence this kind of vehicles?
That EV cars are coming in different types. One of the things which is going to happen, they need the tires which is silent. They need it, because there is no sound on the car, It is only on battery, so they need a silent car, And then they have a huge weight of their own vehicle and the battery, so they need stronger tires. They need a better quality tires, and I think this is the future of a tire, of a tire market. Who can produce EV car tires, and who can bring it and who can sell it? I think this is the future of the market for the EV cars.
I never thought of this.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, and how the technologies and AI are influencing the market of tires?
Yes, that tire markets, everyone think it is an old-fashioned market,
I also think like this.
Yes, everything thinks. But now is that with the AI help and everything, we can see that our trend of the customers, how long these guys are taking the tires, how many times are going to change it, what is the air pressures. We can control the tires on the road. We can have a chip inside the tires and see and just have the full data on the tires. This is which is going to help and change. One of the things which we are working on it, to have small chips on the tires, especially on trucks, to see the air pressure of the tire, to see what is the mileage and what is the usage. This is going to increase the life cycle of the tire by 40 to 50%. This is one. And the second one, it is going to be the fully AI. There is no need for the human to go and check it. You need one screen to check, for example, your cars in XYZ in any locations. What is the tire conditions? And before it's got any problem, that you are going to change it, or you are going to save it, or you are going to do this kind of the thing. So AI itself, it's a big topic, and it's changing the whole industry, how they think, how they work, what is the workflow is coming. And to be honest, I will give you small things about our company. We are going to be one of the first company in the industries, which is import-export, which is that our tire industry, to be fully AI company. So we are in our transmissions, okay, now, and I think inshallah that our vision also that by 2030 that our company it will be fully AI.
And from where do you buy the software?
The software actually now is not like that. You have to buy it. We are doing our own customized items.
So you're collecting the data,
We are
correct?
yes, we are collecting that our data, and we have some of the engineers in house which are doing what we need, because AI, there is a lot of items, there is a big data and big everything, but the issue is that how to use that data and how to make it happen for you and work for you. Today, all of the data is available. Example, you have the ChatGPT, Cloud, XYZ, you can go and search and figure out all the data. But the most important thing is that how this data will make your life easier, how this data will make you to produce more, be efficient. As you know, today the UAE government has announced that we are going to be in 2030 AI country. So now I think we are one of the leading countries in the AI. As a company, that as a small part of the whole ecosystem that we want to
Does this
build.
feature exist somewhere in the world that you are taking an example, or again you are inventing your own software?
We are inventing our own software. It's not only one software; it is a few software which it will work together and help us to increase our efficiency. But the chip system, which is available, that is available for a long time. We are going to have some change and make it more in our own environment and in our own.
And from your point of view, what UAE should have to build its own manufacture? Because now UAE exports, imports, resells, correct?
Yes. Building a manufacturer, it is a very big task, and it is not only that making it. It's the whole infrastructures. And I think we have the infrastructure. I think we are ready for it. The only thing is that I think in next 2 years or next 2 or 3 years, we are going to have our own first manufacturing of the tires. There are some projects, some people are working on it, and they were thinking, but taking the first steps. Today, I think if you see that we have other kind of the factories, like you have the lubricant factories are available, some of the spare parts are available, some of the other equipments are available. But for the tires, because it is a little complicated item. You need the rubber, you need the steel, you need the synthetic rubbers, you need the raw materials. It was not done, but I think next 2 or 3 years we are going to see the factories in the UAE.
We had some conflicts in the region. Has it somehow influenced the prices of the tires?
The conflict which has happened, because the tire is a heavy item, and it moves on the containers, and as long as the shipping price increase, directly it has an effect on the tire, and directly it has an effect on the consumer. So, but for the companies, like that there are some of the big companies in the UAE which they had a big logistic and they had stock available, so they could absorb, with all prices and don't spike it, So this was one of the good things in our industry, that all of the people, all of the companies, they were doing it at this time.
Who are your clients? More government or non-government companies?
That we can divide our market in different things. One of them is you have the fleets, which are the private companies. Second, you have the government sectors, like you have RTA, you have ADNOC, ENOC, you have the buses. This is another one, and you have the end users. You have the peoples who have the cars and who are changing. So the tire market, it is a fully cooperated. It is a fully market starting from the government, from the private sector, from the fleet, and from the individual. So the market is going to be served by everyone.
What other countries that you're looking at the GCC? Maybe Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait?
That we are now actually exporting to all of the countries in GCCs, from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, and other countries. But that the UAE market itself, it's one of the most interesting markets, an underestimated market.
Underestimated, why?
Why? Because we are growing daily. The number of the people who are coming, and it is easy access. We have the ports, we have the airport, we have the infrastructures, and a lot of customers, they prefer to re-export from Dubai. For example, I will tell you one of the things that it was very funny. We were working with one of the factories, and they had a special prices only for Dubai, which it was cheaper than the other countries. For example, if you want to buy it for the Africa, it was 10, but they were selling it to here in UAE for 8.
Okay.
So it was very interesting, 20%. So I had a small talk with the owner. I said that why you are selling cheaper to UAE than the other countries? He said, if we sell to the UAE, our product, it will be famous in more than 50 countries.
Why?
I told him why. He said because the customers from the 50 countries, from GCC, from Africa, and from the other countries, they will see the item in Dubai, and they say yes, because the people in Dubai are using it. So now this is a good quality, and they will take it from there to their own country. So this kind of the mindset and this kind of the things, is not available in the other countries.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay, and tell me please, how do you see your company in the next 5 or maybe 10 years?
We are actually taking a few steps. Number one, that we are working to make it the fully AI company.
Mm-hmm.
We are working in that one. This is one. And the second step that we hope that we can move from, that with the UAE government from that our trading part to the making our own factories. This is our goal, but it depends, in a lot of factors, infrastructure availability, and that our cost wise. But I think in the cost wise, now as everything is going to be AI, automated, and everything we are going, I think that we can compete in the whole regional market.
Describe your favorite customer.
My favorite customer that who pay in advance.
Do you have long payments in your industry?
That our industry actually because it is a B2B, so it is in the common market practice, which is between 120 to 150 days. It goes on credit base, but that is a common market practice which is happening. But we have a lot of customers also. They pay in 30 days, 60, 90. But the whole market practice, it is between 120, 150 days.
Mm-hmm. So basically you have to have something aside.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that I say it is one of the toughest market in the cash flow.
But how to survive in such conditions?
There is a lot of things are available. There's a lot of facility, banks are involved, that customers are involved. So it is a whole ecosystem, It's not only one
so
thing.
basically, can it be like one business, or this business should be funded? Okay, we have banks. Is it your main business, or you have some other businesses, they fund your tire business?
Actually, that there is a lot of other things. One is us, our own funds, which are available.
Okay.
Second, that are the banks. Third, are the fintechs are available. Now I think that we are going to have the other countries and other, you have the regional institutions are there, that you have the family offices are there, you have everything are there. There's a lot of way that to get funded, okay? But the market itself, it don't goes in the funding process, and it don't goes on the banking.
Please explain.
Mainly that our market is goes on trust.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I
mainly.
think every business goes on trust.
Yes, every business goes on trust, but you have, for example, that we goes in the open credit. We goes that we know the customer for a long time. That our tire trading companies in the UAE who are active in the UAE market, for example, are around 100 or 200 which are active, but we have a few thousands companies which are active in the other countries, which are
Few thousands.
Yes. Based on my information, I think we have more than 3 to 4,000 active license,
Okay.
which are working at the same field of the tires. So from this one, we have the network of the few hundreds, which we know them, we know the owners, and they know us. So our business with them mainly goes that in for last 10 to 15 years. So we know each other and they know us. At the same thing to our customers, it goes there. So it is a long-term game.
But are you afraid of competitors?
No, actually, that having a good competitors is very good because it's going to help us, go to next level, advance ourselves. Today, we are not competing with others. We are competing with ourselves. That we are lucky to be here. We are lucky to be here in Dubai. We have the mindset for Dubai. That we are going to Dubai it.
Okay, but when you see a new competitor on the market,
Yes.
what are your actions?
Actually, we don't have any actions. The only thing is that if they come to us, we will advise them.
How they can come to us?
We are open our office, our location, and they know us that we are one of
Okay.
the biggest inside the market. A lot of people they come to us.
What they do?
that was-
Do they usually introduce themselves and say, we are the new place on the markets?
You
And
know,
who will give you the data? Who will share the opinion? This a little bit, how it said, or you are too brave, or this does not exist.
actually, that a lot of people they come to us because they know that we are one of the leading inside the market. They come and they ask us, we want to do X, Y, Z. What do you think? And then how do you help us on this thing? Sometimes that we make a JV with them, we make a joint venture with them, we work with them.
So these are experts,
Yes, and then
not
sometimes
UAE nationals.
a lot of people also from the UAE they will
Okay.
come and they will ask us how to do it in different kind of directions because in our business we have the wholesaler and we have the master wholesaler and then we have the dealers and we have the end users and then we have the retail. So it is a whole chain.
Okay.
For example, that I had a friend that he came to me and he said that I want to have a shop to start changing the tires. Okay.
Okay.
What do you advise? My expertise is that we are the master wholesaler. So we sell to wholesalers sell to our dealers sell to shops. So I have told them very straightforward, if you want to do this one, this only tires, it will not work. You have to have a full ecosystem, starting from the service center, from the oil changing, from the lubricant, from the other minor area and the service. So you have to have everything in-house. If you are going it in one leg or in one item, I don't think it's going to be success, because now in the whole world, the customer needs service. Customer, they were
Correct.
not looking only for one item. They need the whole ecosystem. They need the service, to
Yes,
be available.
ecosystems. You know, all these use of the companies, they mention ecosystems.
Yes.
So, and basically you provide consultancy, correct?
Yes, we provide our experience. We provide the consultancy if it is, for example, needed and required, and we show them the guidance. Plus, we can work in different countries. For example, in some of the countries we are not active. you know.
Okay, what do you think about Africa?
Very nice. Very big market.
Okay, in terms of numbers.
In terms of the numbers, Africa market for 2025, I think it was around $8 billion.
Okay, this is expert.
Yes, and then we are expecting it that it will reach in 2030 by $10 billion. That this numbers itself, if we add it to the number of the UAE itself, so we are going to look at around $20 billion of the market. So this is make us very interesting, you know, that if any growth happen in Africa, is going to directly influence that our flow.
And what about Asian markets?
Asian market, they were the main producers, you know, Asian markets. You know,
Korean
yes,
types, for example.
So you have the China, you have the Vietnam, you have Thailand, and the other countries. They were making the tires and they were exporting, you know, to the other regions. But inshallah, that we are going to have some of the manufacturing units inside the UAE, as that you know, as you said from the beginning, there is a factories coming in Egypt. So hopefully, inshallah, that we'll have it here in UAE, inshallah.
And tell me the process. When the tire is expired, what is the recycling process?
You know, tire, it won't get expired. You know, there is a misconception of the tires. They said there is a date and there's expiry date. Tires is the product that it will work with you for 5 years. You know, that in Europe, Australia, and the US. You know, from the date of this production, you have the 5 years and you can use it, and you know, nothing will happen. But the only problem is what it don't, like, if it is exposed or if it is storage in the wrong location or wrong place or open space, it will get affected. So when the tires is done, they will take it. You know, now there is a lot of the valuable items available inside the tire itself. You know, one is the rubber. They can use that rubber to make a recycled tires, or they can fix that tires. So a lot of high quality brands, they will retrade the tires and they will use it again. It will give you another life cycle. And a lot of things are there. One of them is the steel, which is available inside the tire. So it has the values.
So basically, these are all different factories, correct?
Yes.
Who cater one product.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now I understand why you said that it's a huge thing to open the tire manufacturer.
Yes, because you need all the raw materials and you need the whole
ecosystem to recycle in the end, correct?
Recycling, I think there are some factories they already started, are available, which are doing recycling based on my knowledge. And some of the, I think we have 1 or 2 factories in the UAE which are doing the recycling of the old tires also. Okay, and in the region, I think there are some factories which are using the rubber to produce other items. Like you have the flooring, because you can just melt it and you can make the flooring.
But will it be safe?
Yes, because it is rubber, you know.
But it's a used rubber. Is it ecologically safe?
Yes, it is. You know that because it's going to go in different item and different kind of procedures, so they will get sure that it is compliant with all the standards and available. So I think in the construction they were using it. In the flooring, I think these guys are using it, especially on the parks when the kids are going to play, you know. So because if they fell down, they will fall down not on the sand,
they will fall on the rubber, correct?
Yes, which is fully safe, you know. And there is a lot of parks and everything are starting to use it for the flooring. So there is a big usage of the old rubbers, or we will say it, you have the recycled rubbers.
So now I understand that this is a very complex project to set up the manufacture. And is it easy for the expert to set up this kind of business?
UAE, it is open for everyone. You know that we are open for the trade. We are open for the factories and everything. But for the tires, what is happening? You have to go to the expert peoples, which are know the industry of the tires. You know, if you want to do, for example, construction, you have to go to the people who knows it. You go for the real estate, you go for the people who knows it. When it's come to start the manufacturing of the tires, you have to go to the people who knows about the tires and who have a passion about it, you know.
Okay.
So I think it is very easy, but they have to take steps and they have to come. We are here also that if anyone is interested, we can have a joint venture about it, and we can do something in the UAE and we can help them.
Mm-hmm. And how long is the process of setting up this kind of business?
I think around 2 years.
2 years.
Yes, I think in 2 years that we are going to be fully operated.
Fully operated. Why it's so long? Because to get the license,
It's not about license.
This
no.
is not a jewelry license.
No.
to get.
No. Actually, it's not about the license. I'm saying from starting the license until the construction, until the making your first tires.
Okay.
So because you need to have a big building, construction time, equipment time, the raw materials times. It's not only about the license. License, I think you can get it in 5 minutes.
Exists. Yes, DAD Cafe.
Yes.
It's easy.
Exactly.
To buy economic department.
Exactly, 5 minutes is there. But it's not only about the license. It's about the construction of the area, getting the allocation of the land, building it, you know. So for the building of the factory, and this one, I think it will take 2 years. 1.5, you know, 1.5 or 2 years, I think.
Besides the technologies and AI that you mentioned, that you will implement in your company within 5-10 years,
Yes.
what else you think you can implement?
One of the things is that also that we are moving to the EV cars.
Mm-hmm.
Now also is there. The second thing is that we are also that expanding our markets, not only in Africa, in Europe, and is in Asia. That is one of our things is that are happening, inshallah.
And what are the African countries where you export the tires?
We are mainly now active in East African countries, but we are looking to expand our business in the West Africa. Africa, one of the issues of the West Africa is far. You know, it will take a lot of time to reach.
Usually it's by ship or by air, how it's done?
Tires goes by ship, you know, but people goes by air. So also by air from the, if you compare it here in the UAE, we are very near to East Africa.
This is true. This is true.
But if you want to go to West Africa, you need to have more patience, you know, and take another flights or transit or something like that, you know, it goes there. That's why it was not accessible for the people, you know. They were not ready to go for that one, you know, like you have the countries like
so basically
Ghana,
the price of the
Cameroon,
tire will rise up.
Will rise up because of the pricing of the shipment and everything, but I think these countries are very interesting.
You know, I noticed now on the market, UAE is the second investing country in Angola, correct? The first one is China. So what would you recommend, to build a factory there or to send the tires there? Because, you know, even to fly to Angola, it takes 8 hours.
Yes. You know that for me, I think that if we have the manufacturing in our own country here in UAE, and we have the setup here, and from here that we export to the other countries, I think it is a very good option. Why? Because number one, we can export to the other countries also. We can use it for our own needs also. So it is, you know, one factory which it will serve a lot of other countries, plus ourselves. I think that this is going to be the most practical.
Adham, thank you so much for this kind of interesting conversation. I would never think that a simple thing like a tire would have the whole business behind it, and not only one manufacturer there will be.
And you know that actually that the more that you go through the tires and you study about it and you learn about it, that you will figure out it is a big business, it is a big industry, and it is a science-based.
It's science-based.
Yes.
By the way, do you have your professional day? Like, for example, we have Christmas, or you have your professional engineering day, tires day?
Actually, that we don't have the tires date. We have the engineer day, but I think we can announce it as officially as today is our tire day. You know.
Do you have a specific date for this?
No, actually, it's not available for the tires, but we can. I think we can create it.
You can create it. How would you cheer your team?
You know that I will give them free tires. You know.
Okay. You have very good sense of humor, and
Yes,
thank
thank
you.
you.
And thank you for being on with us
Yes, welcome.
on
You know
Mira
that,
Business FM. Thank you so much.
One thing which I
Tell
want
me.
to add is that
Okay.
the tires moves. It will move all the trucks.
Okay.
Okay. It will move all the buses
Yes.
and all the cars and all the people. And if there is any delay on the trucks, on the buses, on the movement of the people, it will affect the whole economy. You know, it is the national security items, which people they don't think about it. Today we think our product it is more important than the food, in our belief. Why? Because if there is no tires, there is no transportation of the food. How you will transport the food from point A to point B? How you will take the water from point A to point B, or other kind of the items. So people, I think they have to start thinking about the item in different way, you know. And I think there is a very good future about this market and this product.
That's true. It's very important. That's why I said you have to set up a specific date, a professional day for the Thais and for the people who are working for this industry.
Sure. That we are going to have it, but instead of the cake, we are going to give them tires, you know.
Okay, let it be like this. And thank you for being
Thank
with
you
us
very much.
on Power
Thank
List with Tatiana on Mira Business FM.
Thank you, Tatiana. Nice to see you.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.